Welcome in to the December episode of the Voodoo Podcast. I am pleased to be joined by a single returning guest. We were supposed to have a few to this show, but also some new faces. Christmas came early when I heard about this plan back in early November, and sure enough, when it was announced, I was a kid on Christmas morning with the amount of excitement I had. The Nightmare Haunted House and Horror on Highland will be combining to create, to my knowledge, the first ever Christmas themed home haunt, Silent Night. And with me today, I have the lead cast of The Nightmare Haunted House. We were supposed to have Adam Cygan from Horror on Highland. Unfortunately, he is not able to join us today, but I will get a chance to talk to some familiar faces, and we will break everything down as we are coming close to Saturday, December 7th, when Silent Night will be a one-night only extravaganza. Michael Peters is with us. It's been a longer while since we've talked with you. We spoke to you after MHC 2023, and you've taken some giant steps with the Nightmare Haunted House since then. When did this idea come up for a Christmas haunt, and especially to do it as a collaboration with Horror on Highland?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me back on the show. It's a absolute honor to be back on once again. Um, Man, me and Adam, we've been pretty good friends now for a handful of years. Us going to his haunt, his people coming to our haunt. Just giving each other ideas, helping each other out, whatnot over the years. So, kind of just having that, friendship there over the years. We're like, man, we really want to do something. He's probably one of the closest walkthrough haunts to us. So, I'm like, well, we've always wanted to do a Christmas haunt. Now, we're very fortunate enough to be able to do our show here at our home, in my parents' home in Manuka, every October. But unfortunately, we can't really do that outside of that, right? So we're like, well, why don't we team up, combine our casts, combine our crews, and let's do a Christmas home hunt, but let's do it at his place. So we're combining. That's kind of how it came about. We're combining crews, and yeah, that's going to be Silent Night. We're really excited for it. It will be hosted at the Horror on Highland site, so you'll get to see his amazing home haunt. It's pretty long for a home haunt, so it's very good. So we're very super excited for this collaboration.
Yeah, I know Adam's big thing this year during the normal haunt season was trying to extend his walkthrough and the time it takes to go through, and he did just that, taking home the prize from Illinois Top 5 Best Home Haunt Walkthrough in the state, which is incredible, especially when he has to kind of compete with the Nightmare Haunted House right up the block. But now that you guys are in a collaboration here, we're going to get an even crazier, even cooler production, basically. So I'm excited. This, of course, as you mentioned, is at Horror on Highland, 1314 Highland Avenue. Once again, Saturday, December 7th, 5:30. Oh, I should have double checked these hours again. I did this before, but I think it's 5:30 to 8 o'clock we'll be out there.
Yep, that's the time.
I just know that I gotta be there at 4 and ready to go as Christmas Rivets, the elf that you all forgot about, or maybe the red-nosed reindeer. Who knows? I got a big Italian nose, but usually the mantra is ladies first. But I wanted to get that elephant out of the room of the way with Silent Night and the information out there with our guests and our listeners. But we're going back into the rest of our guests now. I want to introduce some new faces to the podcast. Two of the leading ladies for the Nightmare Haunted House, Alexis Williams and Bella Maioli. Where did haunting begin for each of you, and what are your roles now with the Nightmare?
Hello, thank you for having me. My name's Alexis Williams, and I have been with the Nightmare Haunt for 6 years. It all started, or 6 seasons, I should say, going all the way back to 2019, my freshman year of high school, actually. Michael was my section leader, in marching band, and he had asked me to come act at this home haunt. Now, I had been, acting in like school productions previously, and I didn't this year. And he said, "Come act with me." And I said, "Absolutely not." I was so terrified of haunted houses, like that was not going to happen. Well, it took some time, it took some convincing, and eventually I said, you know what, fine, I'll do it. So I walk in there completely terrified. I was so nervous, would only stay in my room, would never go in anyone else's. But after a while, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the feeling of, acting in that environment where I had this creative freedom and getting to scare the living daylights out of people, which surprised me because as a little 14-year-old girl, I didn't think I would be able to scare a grown man. And then about 2 years down the road, I started doing makeup, and now I am not only the head makeup artist, but a co-owner of Nightmare, and I couldn't be happier with the position I'm in right now.
Yes, hi, hello, I'm Bella Maioli. Thank you again for having me. This is actually my first time doing a podcast, so I'm really excited. But it's really funny because I used to be one of the kids that would be carried out on shoulders. I was always bawling my eyes out and covering my eyes. I didn't ever see any haunt we went through. I just heard it, and that's how it was for a long time. But as I got older, I found that I really liked Halloween and that I liked going to haunted houses. And once I got to the age where I kind of started wanting to get into that stuff, I still wasn't old enough. So I had to wait a few years. And an old friend actually introduced me to the nightmare. I was I was so terrified because I have really bad stage fright. And so part of me wanted to do this to kind of help me get over that. It was really scary, but I was really surprised how quickly I fell into it. And I think it's because Michael did such a great job with just creating a really welcoming environment. And I noticed that with our entire cast, everybody falls into it so quickly. And now it's something that I've done. This is my fourth season. I love it. I have started making my own costumes, and I've found new passions and done things that I never thought I'd ever be able to do before. And I mean, I went from being terrified and carried on shoulders to now co-owning a haunted house. And I just, that's like the biggest change ever. And I seriously couldn't ask for anything to be different. I love where I am and I love what I have.
Did you know that this was going to become such a big part of each of your lives, or did you think that Michael was a little crazy when you first started? I always ask or wonder with my crew if they thought I was crazy at the start. Now I know that they know that I know that I'm crazy. But for you two, what was that first instinct?
I wouldn't say I thought he was crazy. I mean, I I'm pretty weird myself. I've always been out there myself, So I think that's also why I fit in so quickly. But I definitely was shocked by how forward everybody was. I thought I was, being out there, and then I see Michael, coming over here doing some crazy body movements, and I think it just really broke the ice. And so I wouldn't use the word crazy, but it was really awesome. And I've always been weird myself, so I kind of fit right in.
See me, I would use the word crazy. I knew Michael before the haunt, and I knew what I was getting myself into. Um, and I was so happy to be along for the ride with him. And looking back on it now, I've been like he's one of my best friends, for all this time. And when I like showed up to this haunt, like I grew up and my mom always was like, "You're such a little weirdo." And I finally found a group of freaks that fit like that I fit in with that like had similar interests with me. And it was so nice to find a place where I felt, completely like welcome and accepted. And that's like especially like in high school when I was, in my freshman year of high school in that transition period where I went to a small junior high and, I had about 1,000 kids in my grade level when I went to high school. And so it was such a weird transition. And I found somewhere where I felt just like home.
That's awesome, Mike. We mean it in the best way possible. But is there anything you want to say to defend your the crazy allegations?
I won't defend it at all. I think I am crazy. I'm always, always doing something crazy, outlandish. I don't care what other people think. I just do it. I guess maybe I am a little crazy at times, but you know what? I would argue that you kind of have to be crazy to be in the haunt industry. So it works out. It works out.
Did you yourself know that The Nightmare was going to become this big of a production and even lead to a Christmas haunt as well?
Not at all, actually. I started this a long time ago. 2025 when we open will be our 12th season of doing haunted houses. And when I started, I was like, well, yep, I'm starting a home haunt. I want to be just like Halloween Hellmouth on YouTube, and I want to do exactly that. But slowly but surely, my vision kind of changed to, well, what I kind of wanted to be like John LaFlamboy and Larry Kirchner and Ben Armstrong and all these other inspirational people in the industry. And slowly but surely, I started building and learning how they do things, watching very close attention, getting myself involved with, professional haunts in the Chicagoland as well, learning from them, Based on the Dead and Midnight Terror over the years. Just slowly growing and kind of molding it to what I wanted it to be. So is it where I want to be? Well, our goal is, professional haunt, but I don't think nowhere in a million years would I have envisioned what we have been able to accomplish and do on a home haunt level.
That's incredible. We have seen, since you kind of hinted at it the last time we had you on, but you couldn't announce it last time. Speaking of John LaFlamboy and Zombie Army Productions, the Nightmare Haunted House was featured in an episode of Days of the Living Dead. So, what was that like? What did that bring to the Nightmare? Of course, any publicity, of course, is good publicity, but that's like the highest publicity, especially in our area. What was that like after getting a chance to work with the Yokai Films and Zombie Army?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'm very thankful for Chris Zarobsky, Haunted House Chicago, and of course, John LaFlamboy and Chris and Mike of Yokai Films and Zombie Army Productions, just the whole team for, showcasing us on their platform. We're the first, to my knowledge, even a haunted house attraction that I can remember outside of Statesville or Hell's Gate or the Fear at Navy Pier that was on Days of the Living Dead. So that to me alone just makes it all fantastic. But going through that experience, it was unlike anything we've ever been through. Obviously the stakes were high. We wanted to make sure our show was the best it could be, upgrading costumes, investing thousands of dollars into makeup and new masks and all this stuff, just really pushing us forward so we can really showcase who we are and what we do on that grand of level. And just being able to, I think out of all of it, what we got out of it is just, even greater appreciation for the industry and just the support we've been shown over the years. It was a truly outstanding experience. It really was.
That's incredible. And you kind of soared to new heights like we've been talking here. You said this year was the first time that you had a city inspection come through now for your haunt.
Yes, we were inspected by the fire marshal. It was unexpected. One day, I work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I was at work. My mom worked from home. She texted me and said, hey, just a heads up, the fire marshal's been knocking on the door the last couple of days, and I haven't answered it. You might want to call him. And I'm like, oh, great. So I call them, and they're like, hey, can we come out and look at your haunted house? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Come by tonight. And so they come by, they look at everything. We had to put up a few exit signs, but they gave us codes for what we have to follow going forward in the future, as well as what that would look like if we were to open a professional show in Grundy County. So we now know it was actually a huge learning experience actually for us. So now we know what we can do, change to go forward to make a safer show, as well as, we passed. So it kind of gave us a pat on the back, said, hey, we're probably doing this right. We're headed in the right direction. So having the fire marshal out, yes, it was scary. We're all probably shitting our pants, but in the end, it ended up being a pretty good learning experience for us all.
And what did you guys have to change or do based on the inspection? I know we've talked about this off camera, but any kind of, the scariest thing is a sprinkler system, I think, for haunters. But was anything super expensive that you had to add to your haunt to make it up to code and safe?
We actually only had to spend at most $20. I am very proud to admit that our haunt is pretty safe. We already had an exit plan, codes and strategy too. Everyone has a flashlight in case the power were to go out. We had the appropriate amount of exits. There's ways to get, out of the haunt throughout the maze as well. So from that standpoint, the only thing we really needed to add it was exit signs that were visible. Obviously, it kind of takes away from the whole production scenic, encasing you in the environment. You see this nice all plain exit sign. It's okay. As long as it's making our show safer, we had no problem putting them in. But to be honest, we really didn't have to do much. He did suggest smoke detectors going forward. He didn't make us get them, but he did suggest it. But our haunted house, our walkthrough portion of it falls under, I believe there's some category. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the square footage is, but we fall under the category, because we're a temporary structure, that we wouldn't have to install that. And we all know that the word sprinkler system is a haunter's worst nightmare. So, yeah.
That's incredible. Switching back over to the ladies, we are, and also the latest haunt that you are creating is Silent Night, as we mentioned, December 7th. That's this Saturday. If you're listening to this podcast, it's coming out tonight as we record this, Thursday the 5th, but maybe you're listening tomorrow morning on Friday the 6th, or maybe you're listening on the 7th. Well, hey, guess what? Then that means tonight, Saturday the 7th, is Silent Night. It's a one-night only production, and it's one of the only ones opening this early. For the ladies, are you going to be rocking whole new characters for this Christmas haunt, or are you rolling with your tried and true nightmare characters and just Christmasifying them?
Yeah, so unfortunately I had foot surgery today. If you're listening to it on Thursday, I had foot surgery today and I will not be able to act, but I still will be coming out. I'll still be supporting, and I still will be wandering around there, and you'll get to see not me, but my makeup on a lot of actors out there.
So originally my plan, I distressed my own costume for the first time this year. It was teeth. I totally redid teeth. I had so much fun. But boy, was it exhausting. It was tedious. It was my first time and I didn't expect it, but I had fun. And so obviously the thought of doing that all again, something else, was not appealing at first, but I just didn't feel like throwing tinsel with body parts was very Christmassy. So I kind of wanted to, jazz it up a little. So I decided to do something totally new. I have just been kind of doing it as I go, been kind of coming up with things. But I'm really excited. Michael's been really mad at me because I'm somebody that likes to keep everything a surprise. I hate showing people. I keep it to the last minute. So I'm really excited. I've got shoes and everything, and everybody looked so great when we were at the distressing party. We had a little Friendsgiving / distressing party where we all had our costumes and was doing stuff, and everybody's just so excited. I can't wait. And I'm honestly very proud of myself for coming up with this quick of a character in this short amount of time. But I'm excited to show it off. And I'm excited for our cast to show off the makeup and what we've done in such a short amount of time.
That's awesome. Now, with Teeth, you just created an Instagram account. But talk to me a little bit about the creation of Teeth and how it has grown into the character that it is now.
Yeah, so this is going on, I believe, Teeth's third year. My first year, I was actually the face of the face of the haunt, the logo, which is Agnes. I had so much fun playing her. But my second year, I decided that I wanted to start my own character. And I don't know how I came up with Teeth. It literally just popped in my head. I was just in a pool. It was the summer. I was just hanging out, and it just came in my head. I was like, okay. I went with it. And I actually, this is so terrible to admit, I didn't come up with an official backstory until like this season. I just kind of, it was kind of just known that Teeth eats people and kind of collects teeth and hands out the teeth. And I didn't, if somebody asked me why, I didn't really have an exact, explanation. But, I kind of started a groundwork, is where she was in the asylum, obviously. And for years, she was picking people's teeth and trying to find the perfect one to pick the lock on the door. And she finally found the perfect one and she escaped. And now she kind of just runs around eating people and collects their teeth. But she likes to share, obviously. Teeth's she's got some nice bones in there. So I hand out little fake teeth in the line to the kids and really anybody who wants it. It's so funny because I get people like way after season. I'm talking about like April, May, and they're like, yeah, I was doing laundry and I found teeth in my in my pocket. I was like, oh my God, it's really funny, but teeth is kind of still evolving. I've already got some ideas and works going in for next season, doing even more stuff. And I got to make a brand new character, Kitty, this year as well. So that was really fun. But yeah, you will see Teeth and Kitty again next season.
All right, I am excited then. Alexis, I know you won't be able to be really in character with the injury and everything, but like you said, you'll still be around and you are big into photography. You were telling me a little bit about what you do with Northern Go Huskies, but also what you do for the Haunt as well. So tell me a little bit about what you bring to the table and the fact that you're commuting back and forth from DeKalb to Manuka basically all the time when you're doing the regular Nightmare Haunt during the October season.
Yes, ma'am. I drive all the way from DeKalb to Manuka. If you don't know where Manuka is, it's between like Joliet and Morris, so it's about an hour 15, hour and a half drive every time. Not the most fun drive, but it's a drive and it's well worth it. And so yes, I go to Northern Illinois University and I work for the Northern Star, which is the school newspaper. And I'm a videographer there, so I have both video and editing skills. And to branch off of that, I was gifted a camera this year by my aunt. And she just let me have it. And she said, I wanna, I hope this helps. And so we had a photo shoot day at the haunt just so I can like dabble, see what I could do. And it ended up coming out really good. With the editing skills that I have learned and being able to use like a good camera with a good editing system, like it came out so much better than I could have expected. And yeah, so if I can if I can walk as much as I want to this weekend, I will be also walking around taking pictures of everyone. I started, branching out to more of that side of what I'm interested in this year. And so while makeup is my main focus, if I get the chance when I'm not all suited up in character, I do love to take pictures and all that I can.
That's awesome. That is a huge help, especially on the social media side of things and the marketing side. So for any haunt, that is big. Now going back to Mike, Michael, you've actually guest acted at Christmas haunts before, I believe mostly Midnight Terror. What has been your experience there, and how is it different from haunt acting in October, especially because, that's a good advice for any of us leading into this silent night or the rest of this Christmas season?
Yeah, absolutely. Just, acting in a Christmas haunt, just stick to the trieds and truths of Christmas. Last year I think I sung Christmas carols at Midnight Terror. And, just keep it Christmas. You don't have to, really go outside of the realm of it. If you're Santa, you can be Santa, or there's so many different versions of Santa you can be. Be the Grinch. You could be an elf. You like presents. There's just so much you can do with it. There's so much to Christmas. You could go historic with it if you want. There's Krampus. There's Nutcrackers. There's all sorts of things. So my advice would be stay true. If to anybody who's acting in Christmas haunts, just stay true to Christmas. Don't, try to go all crazy with it. Change it up too, because, people are coming through to see a Christmas show. Give them a flavor of Christmas. Don't do the same thing you did during haunt season.
Totally. Rivets will be an elf, basically, I guess, or the big-nosed Italian reindeer. So I've changed some things to my regular haunt character, but making it super Christmas. So I'm excited to get a chance to work with you all. And I know Adam was dealing with actually the city the other day. I guess a neighbor had called on him, so we didn't get a chance to talk to him. And unfortunately, he's not here for tonight, but everything, of course, is going well. He's making some last minute adjustments to the haunt before it opens on Saturday. And I think I think it was an officer that came over to kind of inspect things. He was like, "Hey, we're doing a creepy Christmas." And she was cool with it. And we'll probably come back on the night of just to kind of see it in action. And we're excited. I know he was saying that he just showed them the front of the house because he didn't want to show them the whole back walkthrough. One, because A, spoilers, and two, because of the fact that you didn't want to show that it's this big of a production, because then hopefully the city is okay with us doing a full-on walkthrough in December for creepy Christmas. But I am excited. I know you guys all are. We talked about other haunts. There are a number of haunts open this year, starting with this weekend. It is Dungeon of Doom's Subthermal Nightmare. Adam and I will be at that one tomorrow, so Friday. But they are also open Saturday. But come to us. Come see the Silent Night production over in Lockport. But the Subthermal is open from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. both Friday and Saturday, December 6th and 7th. The following weekend is the big weekend with 4 different haunts opening up for Christmas. First, you have Massacre that will be open both Friday and Saturday, December 13th. Friday the 13th and Saturday, both days 7 to 10 p.m. So go ahead and get your tickets to that one. And then 13th Floor will be doing their famous Krampus takeover. So that will be actually all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 13th through the 15th. I believe 7 to 10 on all of those. And then we will also be getting Basement of the Dead reopening. I know in the past couple of years, they've either had to close the Christmas haunt either due to COVID or the Aurora Chris Kindle Market was in that plaza location, so there wasn't room for them to run their event as well. Not sure if that Chris Kindle Market got moved or it just isn't happening this year, but Basement of the Dead will be open on that Friday and Saturday, I believe 7 to 10 both nights for their Xmas event, which will be a great thing to see. I am very excited. And the one that I'm leaving out, last but not least, Midnight Terror's Christmas Fear will be open all 3 days of that weekend, 7 to 10 p.m. Actually, I believe that might be 7 to 9 p.m. Although, of course, you get it. You buy the ticket for 9 o'clock. As long as you're in line before 9 o'clock, they stay open. So they may be there till 10 p.m. But 7 to 9, it looks like, on the ticket times that you can purchase. But go ahead and get out there and see all phenomenal shows. And that is going to be one jam-packed weekend. But we're not done. I don't know where Rivets is going to be that weekend since there are so many open. However, I do know the following weekend, the one right before Christmas, that is Friday, December 20th, and Saturday, December 21st. The infamous Disturbia Twisted Elves event will be going on, and Rivets will be there both nights. I am super excited for that one as well, since it's, other than Silent Night, the only solidified haunt that I have on my acting list for Christmas. But Disturbia Twisted Elves open the 20th and 21st, I believe 7 to 10 both nights there. So get on out. We have a lot of Christmas haunts opening up. Of course, Saturday night, we are all busy, but are you and the crew going to get a chance to go out and see some of these other Christmas haunts?
Yeah, absolutely. Every year we take it's been a nightmare tradition for many, many years that we go to one of the Christmas haunts in the area. We usually do a different haunt every year. We've gone to 13th Floor a handful of times. We've been to Disturbia. We've been to, oh geez, Midnight Terror. But this year we've selected to go to Massacre for their Christmas event. So we're going on Friday the 13th. We're taking the team. So yeah, it should be fun. We're really excited. I love Christmas haunts. They're one of my favorites.
Alexis and Bella, are you guys big into the Christmas haunts? Do you get a chance to go out and see, like Mike was saying, with the rest of the Nightmare group? And we're not going to have to drag you guys out of there kicking and screaming, right?
Oh no, not at this stage, not anymore. That was back in the day, maybe. But my first Christmas haunt that I experienced with Nightmare was actually 13th Floor, I believe. It was pretty awesome. I had never even heard of any like haunted house, I guess, doing anything besides Halloween. And when like I first saw the text in the group and was like, "Oh, Nightmare Christmas trip to the 13th floor," I was like, "What? What are they gonna do? Like, what's scary about Christmas?" And we got there and they did amazing. I was like, the set was awesome. It was a pretty decent walkthrough length too. That was my first experience. Definitely set the floor. And then, man, I think I've been to Massacre as well. I think I went to Massacre's Christmas show. I believe so. I love it. I think it's such a great idea. I also love, the ones that do Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day. Whoever came up with it, genius. It just keeps the love for it year round. Those people that go to it year round. It sucks because usually it's only one month, but it's not. It's year round. And people don't understand. My mom, she's like, "Why are you going to a haunt, during Christmas? Don't you want to have like Christmas spirit?" I'm like, "Mom, it's you got to come with. I want to take her so bad." But
It's
yeah,
different.
I
It
love
is.
all the. I know it is. I love all the Christmas haunts. It's fun.
Yeah, and I actually my first Christmas haunt was December of 2019. I know, way back ages ago, feels like, before COVID was a thing. Michael and I went with our friend Maddie to Massacre. Massacre was my first Christmas haunt. And I walked in and I was like, "What the fuck is this? Like, this is insane, man." Like, and I mean, if my love for haunting wasn't solidified before, it definitely was then. Because it just really proved to me how much, creativity you could truly have with what you love. And, after that, I've been to Disturbia, I've been to 13th Floor, Midnight Terror. And like even though I can't act in this one this year, I've acted before in a Christmas haunt, and it's just so much fun. Like Michael was saying, like you could really do anything and just have like it's not like regular haunt season where you just have to be scary, and entertain to be scary. You have to, with Christmas haunts, entertain to be jolly and merry and all sorts of twisted fun. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm excited to get out to some of these myself, whether or not Rivets is going to be there or, just getting a chance to go and walk through these. That is going to be a busy middle of December weekend for, I think, a lot of us haunters. But let's dive back into Silent Night. Mike, there were a couple of big names that are going to be with us acting at Silent Night, which is super exciting and a huge reason as to why people should come out and see this production. Not to give away too many spoilers, but what can viewers and fans expect when they're out at well, typically it's horror on Highland, but Silent Night on Saturday night?
Yeah, when visitors come to Silent Night, they're going to realize really quickly that this is a collaboration not only between the Nightmare Haunted House and Horror on Highland, two of the best home haunts in the market. It's also a collaboration of a lot of other amazing haunters, pro and home. Chicago haunt builders, people are coming out. There's other home haunters coming out as well. There's pro haunters. I'm not sure. Maybe I could hint at some of the names. Some of our close friends, yourself, you're coming out. Matt Thomas is coming out too. So we're really happy. And there's a few, I think Smiley, I believe he's at Disturbia now, is coming out. And some people from the Old Joliet Prison coming. And there might be somebody that slides coming from Hell's Gate. Maybe that's what I'll say. Someone that slides coming from Hell's Gate.
Woo! I think we are all super excited for that. I know I am, just to get a chance to work with some of them, but also to see them in Christmas form compared to their usual. I think I've seen some of who we're talking about at other Christmas haunts during previous seasons, but another chance to get to work with my co-host on this podcast, Matt Nossid, as I think I sent him a video of what I did for Rivets the other night with all the Christmas getup, and he just sent back, I really need to add to mine. So, I think he has a couple tricks up his sleeve as well, and I'm excited to see what he does with, he's usually, I don't know if his character has a name. He usually just calls himself the Scarecrow from Greenbrier Cemetery, but he has a cool getup, and I'm eager to see. We'll be pulling up together. We coordinated that since we're coming from the same location, we'll be carpooling, and I think we'll be talking shop on the way down and then getting a chance to see his character. But I am super excited. Will the haunt community possibly see more collaborations between Horror on Highland and The Nightmare in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't foresee a reason there wouldn't be. Obviously we want to take this to professional level someday, and if this goes well, we'll be repeating the Christmas show as well. So all just depends on how this goes. Could be weather issues, could be just it doesn't work or whatever it might be. But I don't foresee that this would be a one and done type deal. I think that this has already been a pretty good deal. So we're really excited for the future.
Yeah, you talk about weather. It is going to supposedly, we know how Chicago weather can be, but it's supposedly going to luck out for us Saturday night. We won't be too terribly cold out there. We had a little bit of a cold week here, which has been good for my ice rink in the back. See, here at Voodoo, when we switch over, well, this year we weren't actually up and running. We were taking the year off. But typically when we switch over, all those haunted house boards end up becoming hockey rink boards. This year, they just got pulled out of storage and our hockey rink board. So it's been good for the ice. I haven't skated yet, but it's been good for building and getting that water frozen and stuff. But last night we had some snow flurries and some high winds. Luckily, it looks like this weekend that won't be the case. We will have a little bit more tame weather. Might be around 40 degrees, maybe dropping, of course, at night when we're out there, but shouldn't be too unbearable for the majority of us. I think that's probably another reason why, even if, I'm not using an ice rink on the side, that Voodoo hasn't opened for Christmas haunts. We've been told in the past, like, oh, why don't you do this for Christmas? We sold Baby Jesus and the Nativity set in a garage sale, so we're going to hell. But yeah, no, we're going to keep it just to the October season. I'm super interested to see what this collaboration has in store, because up here in Schaumburg, we have Slingerland Slaughterhouse around the block from us, and we've talked about some collaborations. They weren't able to open their haunt this year. We chose not to open ours, but I think in the future that this can kind of give us an idea of how to collaborate, and if they are in the same boat next year where they are not able to open their show, maybe a collaboration with them and Voodoo could allow them to open in some fashion, extend our haunt, and extend our haunt group. I mean, of course, we're all part of Chicago Haunt Builders, and our group is super great and vast and incredible, but just our small Voodoo family, we can double it immediately, which would be incredible. So this will be a little bit of a taste for myself and everybody included, but I am super excited to get out there one more time, everybody. That is Saturday, December 7th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at 1314 Highland Avenue in Lockport to see the one-night event Silent Night, put on by the Nightmare Haunted House and Horror on Highland. For all of you, I'll just give you a chance to drop any of your socials, whether it's your personal ones, the actual Nightmare Haunted House ones, or also your character ones as well.
All right, so here I go. If you want to find us on Instagram, we have an Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok page all under The Nightmare Haunt. And then for my character myself, my TikTok and Instagram is both at Cheney.nightmare. Bella has an Instagram for her character Teeth, and I believe Kitty as well, but Teeth is Teeth.nightmare. Yeah, our biggest socials that we do post on is going to be Instagram at number 1 and probably TikTok at number 2, trying to post more there. But yeah, Bella and I do also post a lot of content, and I'm going to be posting some makeup content. Also, stay tuned for live streaming the day of for makeup under Nightmare and Cheney.
She's good,
Yes.
Mike. I see why you hired her.
Yeah, we're pretty organized. We pride ourselves on our team on organization. We definitely make ourselves good with that. Yeah, she hit it on the nail. Teeth.nightmare. Both of the characters are posted on there. I wasn't gonna make a whole new account. And then just my personal Facebook, but I also post a lot of haunt stuff on there. It's just Isabella Maioli, my name. I will preface though, the last name, it's Maioli. People get it wrong all the time. I can't even Michael gets it wrong sometimes. So I like to just I like to just throw it out there. It's a lot of vowels. I got an Italian name. But
That
yeah,
would be why it's Bella Mayo in my phone.
Yeah.
As an Italian with a super long name, I feel for you and I understand.
I know. But yeah, those are all our socials. That's where you can find everything, and even we're actually having a photography team coming to take some pictures during Silent Night. So we will have some Christmas content to be posting on all of our socials as well. So that will be awesome.
Let's go. I'm super excited for that. Alexis, we didn't really get a chance to talk about your character too much right before we go. Do you want to preface anything about your character? And unfortunately, we're not going to see you in costume at this time, but for the usual season for Nightmare.
Yes, for the usual Nightmare season, my character is Cheney. I've been on, yes, I have my own account, but also I've been featured on Haunted House Chicago and Illinois Top 5. I've Cheney has been my character for, I believe, 4 years now. Yeah, 4 years, and watching the character evolve has been crazy. Watching my makeup skills evolve with that is also crazy. I made my own costume as well. I do this weird bit where I kind of pull spit out of my mouth and people think it's blood and go crazy about it. And so my costume may be a little stained red, and maybe we gotta revamp that soon. But yeah, there's no great way to describe what exactly she is, and Michael has described her as a clown dog thing. But yeah, she's a little crazy, a little silly. Yeah, that's Shinny.
That is great. Well, get well soon. We hope that boot doesn't become the leg from A Christmas Story on somebody's nightstand or just a lamp in the corner. But
We can turn it into a new character. It's fine.
Yeah,
we can use
right?
it as a prop when she's done with it.
She might need both. She might need both legs. We'll leave her with both for now. But I'm super excited to get a chance, as I've said already, to work with you all on Saturday. I think it is going to be a great time, and we will have a lot of fun. And let's make this a thing. Let's start off with the first annual and go from there. But if I haven't said already to all the listeners out there, of course, this is our December episode, so it's our last one of the year, but technically our second one of season 3. We have a lot in store for you coming this whole next year, including eventually we are going to be a video podcast. And I mentioned a little bit of this in my next interview with Christine Johnson. She is the historian of the Old Joliet Prison, and she also works at the Old Joliet Haunted Prison as an actor in there. She also does costumes with the great Katie Lynn Rodriguez, who will be at Silent Night as well. Christine will be there walking through to see it, so we get a lot of great information from her. Guys, this has been great. We got a chance to talk about this really incredible, innovative event that you guys are putting on. I mean, it's unprecedented. There's nothing that has been done, to my knowledge, like this. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk, and I'm eager to see what we are going to do, what show we're going to put on, and that is just going to kick off the Christmas haunting season. But to everybody else, get out there, see those Christmas haunts. Go and have a great holiday, whatever you may celebrate out there. And of course, here at Voodoo, we will see you next year. But enjoy this Christine Johnson interview throughout the month of December as we recoup and start off 2025 with a bang. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and
Thank you.
happy holidays, everybody. Stay warm. It's going to be freezing, and we can't wait.
We will see you all at Shindig, right?
Yes, you'll see. We didn't go last year. I can't remember why exactly we didn't, but we went the year before. It was a blast. We're coming back. We're coming this year. All three of us will be there. So we're excited.
Awesome. Well, that'll do it for this portion, and let's just jump right over into Christine Johnson's interview. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you in 2025. Well, the talk this year has been all Hell's Gate, and rightfully so, because they took home the Haunted House Chicago Award for Haunted Attraction of the Year. But for this next emerging story from the 2024 season, we have to look up the road a bit to a place where Zombie Army Productions and the rest of the Joliet and Lockport area prison themes got their original inspiration from. Project Limestone, a Blood Moon paranormal production, dropped on YouTube just a few weeks into the haunt season, and my next guest is the most crucial part of the history and the backstory in this feature of the most interesting and storied structure in Joliet, a place now home to a 13th Floor Entertainment Group attraction, and representing not only 13th Floor Entertainment Group, but also the Old Joliet Prison building itself. I have with me a very special guest. She plays the warden's wife in the haunt attraction, and she's also in charge of the costume department with the talented Katie Lynn Rodriguez. And most of all, she is the historian of the Old Joliet Haunted Prison. Please welcome to the Voodoo Podcast, Christine Johnson.
Hello. Hi, Mike. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Wow, what an introduction.
Did I miss any titles of yours? You wear a lot of hats.
I wear a lot of hats, but haunt partner, haunt buddy, whatever, everybody I haunt with. So, what an honor this year to be given the part of warden's wife. Holy cow. I was shocked and honored. It's only my second year. It was only my second year haunting this year. But I'm really glad that they did it. I'm really glad to see the move towards the really focusing on a lot of the historical aspects of the both men's and women's prison. Of course, right. Where haunt is the annex, the old women's prison that was built in 1896. But to see the focus on the history as far as costumes and the characters, just kind of going way back to that period in time. It's very cool to see. And as we kind of talked at one point, I wasn't going to come back this year and haunt, and it was at the urging of our wonderful Katie Lynn Rodriguez. I'm so excited she asked me to be her assistant this year, or one of her assistants rather. And Adam, Christine.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a good year last year, the 2023 season. It's not, the 13th floor an issue, but you got to remember the timing here. May of 2023 was when we were terminated and banned from, the Old Joliet Prison. So coming into the 2023 haunt season, I can't stay out of prison, obviously. So I had to go.
Yeah.
And I actually I went to be part of the event staff. I didn't go to audition. And Cheese and Sparky talked me into trying out to be an actor, because when I got there for the interview, I went at the wrong time. I got there too early, so I got there for the actor interviews and not the event staff interviews. So of course, Tommy Cheese and our very own Zach Sparky, Blood Moon Paranormal, I adore those guys. They're amazing. Conned me into trying out. The last time I did like that, it was like my senior year in high school, and I was in the play Death of a Salesman, and I played the whore.
Nice.
Laugh. My dad told me whore, so you know, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Well, apparently I scared the hell out of all those years of scaring my boys when, you know, they were little, paid off, and I got on. But I wasn't going to come back this year just because I just didn't. It was probably more me. I was uneasy being across the street from a place. You know, I love both places, don't get me wrong, but there were a lot of emotions. And for anybody who has seen Blood Moon Paranormal's Project Limestone understands, you know, watch the whole thing. It's those man, and I'm going to say kids, sorry. It's what happens when you're a mom and you got my kid's age. Fantastic. All of you, your energy, and the way that you all bring life to these haunted attractions, and just wow, blows me away. And Emily and Zach did an amazing job encompassing the history of the prisons, both sides, with the spirits. And yeah, you know, watch it because it's a great watch. My hope as a historian, of course, is to educate people, and I hope people learn something from it about the prison. And I'm always open for questions, you know. Unfortunately, Mike couldn't be with us tonight. Mike's my husband. He's the former correctional officer and counselor, did the guard tours there for years. He's a little under the weather. I'm still a little under the weather, but I wanted to do this. I'm getting bored. So
well, there's a lot of history to go into the prison, and you know we're going to touch upon that, but I want to reel it back and talk about your history. We were actually chatting about it a little bit because we have a Schaumburg connection, but we had spoken. You said you weren't originally from the area. I believe you told me that your husband Mike was, but how did you two meet, not only fall in love with each other, but also with prison life down in Joliet?
Oh, well, that's really interesting. I hail from the northwest suburbs. I grew up in Hanover Park, went to Schaumburg schools, was very active in the Schaumburg Athletic Association with my parents. You know, I had a lot of friends that went to Schaumburg High School. Of course, I graduated a lot. Well, we were like class, what, 2017? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, you're the same age as my youngest son, and that's all I'm going to say there. But the Hanover Park, Schaumburg area, that's my old stopping grounds. I eventually moved down to Bloomington Normal. My first husband was going to school. He is from the West Chicago area. You know, had my two kids, and unfortunately things didn't work out. So I'd always had an affinity for the Joliet Prison. Perhaps it was from that episode of Batman that I saw. I think that's what first really got me interested in, is there's an episode of Batman, the original 1966 Adam West. And I believe it's season 5, I think it is. And I think it's episode 20 something, but they show of course I saw it on reruns. They show the front of the admin building as Arkham Asylum.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, wow, that place is cool. I couldn't have been more than 10 years old. So I always had this like, wow, that's a cool. And then you'd like see it, a picture here, a picture there. And then I learned it was the Joliet Prison because it was the Castle Prison. And then, of course, in 1980, when the Blues Brothers come out, well, now I'm full blown. I got to know about this place even more because, you know, knowing, you know, seeing the movie for the first time with your dad in 1980 when it came out. Yeah. And then actually getting in there and becoming a prison historian, a local public historian. Wow. The things I know now, and the people I've met from that. So that got me really interested. And I started doing research and whatnot, reading, see it in the movies, on the Stooges, they'd refer to it, Sing Sing, Leavenworth, Joliet, Alcatraz, the top four. And didn't work out between my ex-husband and I, and we were living in Morris. And I thought, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do now. So I was staying in Morris for a while. And Mike and I had been friends for a while. We were on the same trivia team together. Yeah, nerds unite. And Mike was always the kind of guy I just wanted to go out and have a beer with because he made me laugh. Really, that was the whole thing. And we'd been on the same trivia team. We'd gone out and see some bands together with the group of people. And after my divorce was over, he officially asked me to go out with him. And it was our second. And I'm like, I love Joliet. I really thought it was just a cool place, a lot of history. I started learning about it. And he says to me, so you want to go on a photo hunt? I'm a photographer. I'm like, well, yeah, where are you going to take me? He's like, I'm going to take you someplace cool. All right. So it's 2012. It's our second date. Is it our second date? Third date. Sorry. Third date. We drive up to the prison and I almost wet my pants because, and you couldn't go in it because it's 2012. It's still, it's closed, but we drive in the parking lot and holy hell, there I am. And I'm like, it's Arkham. And you start laughing because he knows exactly. And I'm just like, I could not get my equipment out fast enough to get out there. And the first time I stepped out of that car in front of that admin building, I was so overwhelmed that it was just, wow. And it's interesting. And I know this is going on and on, but it's funny. So I get done and I get my camera packed up and we get in the, packed up and we're getting in the car to go to dinner. This is our third date. Yeah, I worked here. What? What do you mean you worked here? Here's me and my best 80 girl hair flip thing. So like, no, I was a guard. Wait, what? Now I have to marry you. And I did. So yeah, that's how I met Mike. And I did not find out of all the years that I knew him that he was a guard at Old Joliet. I had no idea. And when I found out, it was, well, I always love a man in uniform. But yeah, so that's it. And I mean, Mike he's just a great guy. He's a great Joliet historian. And when we got back to his house that night, he literally took all these books on the prison, put them on his coffee table and said, good night. And he went to bed. And I was up till like 4 a.m. going through all the stuff that he had from as a counselor, all the letters that the moms wrote him, the inmates wrote. I was completely blown away. And then the obsession really, really kicked into high gear. And when I had the opportunity, of course, then I had to marry him,
Yeah, right.
Because he's just such an interesting person, but he's a great guy, So yeah, so divorced, and I swore I'd never get married, but I got married again. Best move I ever made. But the first time he actually brought me into the prison because he had started doing the tours as a guard, doing the famed guard tours. I can't even explain it to you, Mike, what it was like going in there. I can't. It's presence. It's just, I think Rob Johnson said it best in that video. It just pulsates. There's just such energy there. And I felt like that first time that I was there, like something was calling to me from the other side of the wall. And I'm like, I have to get in there. I have to get in there. But, and a lot of my friends were photographers, like, let's go. I'm like, no. I can't do it. Because with my luck, I'd get caught. And and I married Mike. And then now it's like, if I get caught, oh, that's not going to look good for a, retired employee that his wife's breaking into the old prison. So I just thought, well, I'll just wait. And I had been doing some work for the Joliet Area Historic Museum, volunteering my time, taking photos for them. And my reward, my payment was that Mike got to take me into the admin building before it collapsed. So a ton of photographs from inside of the admin building before it collapsed. And I know that Rob Johnson, he's another photographer too. Big Rob, if you met Big Rob, he's awesome. He's in the video as well. Yeah, I mean, I spent 4 hours there, Mike, and because it was just, I wish you could have seen it. It was so unbelievable. And the history is so important. And that's, going down in the archives in Springfield, talking to people on the phone. I was a tour guide there, people who would come in and tell me their stories. Whoa, you want to talk about learning a lot about a place that's not in the books? I mean, that's why you have people like Michael. You have, people like Ron Trujillo, his partner, and James Foster, who was in the Blood Moon Paranormal. Those guys are living history, man. That's living history. What an honor and opportunity to have those people share their stories with us. And as a tour guide there, when I'd have an inmate come in, I recall one time I had this young man come in and he said, "Do you know so-and-so?" I'm like, "Oh yeah. He broke out with 5 other guys in, February of 1989. And he looks at me and he's like, "How the hell do you know that?" I go, "Because my husband was one of the guards." And he said, "Who's your husband?" And I told him, he's like, "Who?" And I go, "They called him Chewbacca." I said, "Chewbacca." That old son of a bitch. I'm like, oh my God. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. But
You're good.
I thought that was hilarious because he knew exactly who my husband was. He goes, "What is that old bastard doing?" And I'm like, I'm just starting to laugh because it's hilarious. But
oh my gosh,
that somebody comes in and says, "Do you know who so-and-so is?" And the only reason I knew was because of the stories that Mike told me. Now, how cool is that you've got an experience and the inmate turned his life around. And I mean, wow, just wow, what a real honor to have him share his story with me. Thank God that he thought Mike was a good guy too, by the way.
Yeah, true, right? Yeah, it's so funny because I think, from the outside looking in, a lot of people are like, well, why are you so infatuated with, like prison life or prison history? But there is such rich, interesting stories to it. And I think it's a lot of the same reason as to why people love those like murder documentaries is because they're riveting. It's these stories that kind of make you wonder what happened next, or like an old ghost story, but yet these are real. It's a real person. These are real accounts of their tales and stuff. And I mean, even just from doing this podcast, I look back and I wish I was a little older to have been able to appreciate some of these haunts like Dream Reapers or Statesville that started way earlier on in their history. Like I can only learn about it through stories. I wasn't there even going through it necessarily as a fan. I mean, Statesville once or twice here or there, but towards their later years. And then here is Old Joliet Haunted Prison that, I mean, even though the haunt itself doesn't predate most of these, I mean, you guys only started a couple of years ago, but it the history of the building itself is what was the domino effect that influenced a lot in that Joliet Lockport area, like I mentioned. And not only was it a domino effect for haunts, but for your life too. I mean, slowly it seems like you started taking another step into the water deeper to the point where now you're acting in it, which is just amazing how the universe works like that, kind of in some ways. To clear some things up for the layman folk, the old Joliet prison was known as the Joliet Correctional Center, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. The naming is what trips me up sometimes, but there might be a lot that people don't know. And then even before that, the Illinois State Penitentiary, and then it is not to be confused with Stateville. And Stateville, with only one S, not 2. It is not to be confused with the haunted attraction Statesville, run by Zombie Army Productions, as I mentioned in the intro. And that is also not to be confused with the Joliet Slammers, the minor league baseball team that also plays up the road. But everything has taken inspiration from the fact that Joliet became prison town because of Old Joliet.
That's right. It's the prison city.
Yeah.
Love it or hate it, that's what Joliet's known for. It's the city of stone and steel. Talking about the prison for a lot of older folks was taboo for a very, very long time. I actually have a good friend who's an Illinois historian who told me that when she started hearing me talk about the prison, I made it interesting and had no idea of the history of the prison because for so long it was such a taboo subject. Now, that's coming from a lifelong Joliet person who is a top historian in the state of Illinois and who didn't want to talk about the prison and just is fascinated when I tell stories and I relay the history because it is important to Joliet. It's part of Joliet. Embrace it. Learn about it. There's a lot of bad things that happen there. We need to make sure we don't make the same mistakes. People, quite frankly, and this is no disrespect to the people serving time, you read about a little rat you might see or a mouse in the corner, sorry, you ain't got nothing. I'm sorry. That place was a hellhole and it's sad. And people need to learn the history of what it was like to understand what the prison system is like now. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not saying that inmates have it good. They don't. That's not my point. But when you don't have any plumbing in your cell for 90 some odd years and you have to go in a bucket in a 7x4 cell from 1858 until 1940, 1951. Yeah. 7x7x4 cell. So, basically, I guess the message is if you don't want to be in prison, then just do the crime, like, Beretta said.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, but those people had it really bad. And there were a lot of bright lights in there as far as prison reform and people and, specifically Odette Allen, the warden's wife who was murdered, who I get to play the warden's wife and modeled after Odette. And yeah, it's a spooky thing, but it's respectfully done. And it's an nod to Odette. She's very interesting to me. She's got a very interesting history, as does Edmund Allen, the warden. But yeah, and the fact that, it's a haunted house. Okay, I get it. But I think it's being very respectfully done as far as the costuming, the makeup. The makeup artists are fantastic as well. And they're tilting they're not disrespecting history because they're including it. Yeah, okay, it's entertainment, but entertainment with, they're consciously thinking about the history and how important it is so that no one is put off by it. Like having stripes, hey, that's how it was until 1897. There were stripes. Yes, we need to show that. There's a lot of history about the building that we haunt in. And just so people know, and just like you said, Joliet was huge. It's only 16 acres now, and that includes the main prison and the women's prison annex, Old Joliet Haunted Prison. So it's only 16 acres now between the two buildings, but it was over 1,000 acres at one point. Stateville wasn't built until 1926. So there you go, with one S. Very good.
Yes.
Yeah. And they were supposed to close Joliet when Stateville was built. Unfortunately, by the mid 40s, there were almost 4,100 prisoners between both prisons. That's a lot, especially when Old Joliet itself, the main prison, was only built to hold 900 prisoners. So, yeah, little overcrowding, little stinky, little not. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, that for the layman, there's, we're talking about different places, and yeah, Statesville with the S was the haunted house. Now that group, didn't they go to Hell's Gate now? Is that how that went down before I even started haunting?
And when you think about it, I mean, they're a very, like you guys are, they're a very storytelling group. So they didn't really completely abandon the Statesville part of them. They brought a lot of their icon characters to Hell's Gate, and there's this whole story of how they had basically a prison break and went to Hell's Gate. And even the story of Hell's Gate has a lot to do with the area of Joliet and a lot of, I won't say necessarily inmates. Those that are listening will have to go out and actually, read the story and understand. We actually had Tila Halpin Moss, who plays Boona, on last episode, and she actually mentioned one of those quote unquote reformed prisoners that are just part of the story, not an actual person. But there's a lot to their story even that revolves around the fact that it's prison town, even still now that they're Hell's Gate, and all of that stems back to the prison building. And what's nice is that you are on both sides of things. Yes, you're part of the haunt attraction, but you're also a part of the building and its history. I mean, you're literally the historian, but you guys bring a lot of the actual history to the show, which is such a unique touch. When I was with you guys, that was one of my favorite parts. So it's as if the customers are going through a haunted house and still getting a tour and learning some history. You had told me some of the sayings that the guards and the prisoners used to say that were different from other prisons, such as process the fish rather than the cliche process the meat. What are some of the other unique sayings and procedures that used to be enacted at the prison back when it was open that you guys still bring to the show today even?
Well, I think that some of the things that I brought to the show that they didn't know is, I get it's cliche to say fresh meat. And one of the things I said was, well, in prison terms, it's fresh fish. We need to use that because that's what. Oh, okay. So boom, fresh fish. And even as the warden's wife, I call him Fish sometimes. And you can even go back to the series Prison Break, and right there you hear him call him Fish. That is the term that was used, and even Mike will tell you in '84 when he became a guard. Look, got some fish, new fish, fresh fish. So new fish, fresh fish, whatever. A lot of the things to pair it up. And Adam has really, our warden, Adam, has really taken a lot of those sayings that he's learned from Mike and really have put him into the warden's character, and Kevin, who was my runner, played the guard. Jumpsuits for everyone. That cracked me up every time he said that. And I'm like, hey, and then I would say stripes for everyone. So yeah, it was cool to kind of play off of these guys. But yeah, they would the keys, very important. Everybody has keys now. Did you notice that this year?
I did. I felt empty without mine. Like my character Rivets, he has the stripes, so I was grateful I got to wear my costume with you guys because it fit perfectly. But I did not have keys. I might have to add that to Rivets' costume.
Well, I will put you Rivets at an estate sale. I should go grab them, but I won't. I literally got for $10. It's a ring of keys, like a ring of keys, so you will have keys next year.
Oh, okay, all right.
Probably 80 keys on this ring. They're small, they're big. Yeah, Adam's getting new keys next year as well. Surprise!
That's awesome.
Who am I to pass up a whole thing of skeleton keys, right?
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah,
that is so cool.
But yeah, people, and it's funny because people started really getting into it, the keys, and and that my first character was the crazy inmate who killed a guard and got the keys. And that was my whole premise of my character last year was I've got the keys. So they called me, and I ran around with my Folger Adam keys. So yeah, it was, and then using other things like, ID cards with, and a badge that says guard on it, and having, uniforms with badges on them. Katie really went crazy all out to make sure it just wasn't people running around in orange jumpsuits, because those were transfers. So we don't want no stinking transfers. We want our, this is a life sentence here, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is a life sentence. But yeah, so keys, there's something that, and then with my character, I really kind of had a feeler out this year. How was the crowd going to respond? What could I say? Well, then I ran into an area where a lot of people thought I was this La Rona, which is the woman. And yeah, well, this is really, so I kind of had to change my stick a little bit. La Rona in Mexican folklore is the woman in white who killed her children.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's what they were calling me. I'm like, no, that's not who I am. And I didn't know who it was. I didn't know that. I knew of it, but I didn't know that was her name. I had to go look it up. I'm like, oh shit. Now I can't say, where are my boys? Because people think that I've killed my children. And no, I'm the warden's wife looking for the boys who I sing to are the prisoners. And oh my God, I've got to change this now. So I kind of pulled that out because people were really feeding into that. And I'm like, no, so I have to figure out next year when I go back, how am I going to reference? Because she sang to her boys. So
right.
I have to figure out how to do that without having this Iona look thing going on. So I don't know, weird, but yeah, sorry.
Well, that's true, and it's tough when you're, you guys are purposely omitting the name and changing it a little bit to be in good taste, which
Mm-hmm.
we appreciate and we kind of talked about. But like we said, you play the warden's wife, and Odette is the real name. She was beloved by the inmates. So like you said, she used to sing to them, and I believe she used to bring them flowers, or they used to bring her flowers. And yet she was found dead one day, and people still supposedly hear her ghosts singing in the tunnels with her flowers. Have you ever experienced? We had Adam on, and he spoke a little bit about that. Do you ever get anything like that? Are you ever in an area where all of a sudden you hear some singing in the distance, or find some randomly placed flowers?
Actually, it's interesting that you say that. When I was on the other side and giving tours, I was working with Chris Fleming. I don't know if you know who Chris Fleming is, of paranormal fame, but Shane Pittman and Dave Schrader were doing an investigation. I was over there, and we were in the North Seg building. Now, this is in the main side.
Right.
And the group of us, we were in the second floor of North Seg, which was death row. And we smelled her perfume.
Oh.
You could smell her perfume, and it smelled floral, like gardenias. I'm like, oh my God, that's. And she always wore white flowers in her hair. I did notice that. I don't know if they were gardenias. It's kind of hard to see from the photographs that were, back then, the photographs that I have seen of her. But the perfume smelled like gardenias, very floral, very heavy floral, which is typical for the Victorian era at that time. And yes, I heard her sing.
Wow, interesting.
I heard her in the hospital. I have heard her in North Seg on the other side. And ironically, if you ever get an opportunity, go out to Oakwood Cemetery. That's where Warden Allen and his family are buried, including Odette. And I was out there with some friends, and we heard singing, and it was unbelievable. So yeah, she's there. She's there. She's definitely there. And she was around the women's prison.
Interesting.
She was, and it was, and I heard her when I was out in the cemetery. I heard her because I would sing, not very well, but I would sing. And then I'd hear it reverberate, but it wasn't my voice. It was much better. And everybody said that they always felt weird and uncomfortable in that area that I was haunting. Do you know I never felt uncomfortable in there? There was one night that there was like this big wacky shadow thing going on, and I'm like, really, dude? Knock it off. No. I'm here. I'm respecting your space. And then I saw it every once in a while. I could see shadows in the windows. On the original building, you could see the shadows. And when I would sing, you'd see like, it was really weird. And I swear it was just like I was paying homage to Odette, and they were doing the same thing. And I swear I heard her singing, but I certainly never had any like weird, bad feelings out there. And Katie, as a matter of fact, said to me, I feel so much calmer and safer in the cemetery with you out there. And I'm like, what? Yeah. She goes, because they respect you. And I'm like, okay, so that's what Odette did. Odette was very beloved by the inmates. She was called the little mama of the big stir, and the angel in white. Yeah. So she helped a lot with, Warden Allen was very reform minded, very progressive. She helped with the rehabilitation. She actually was helping Chicken Joe. He was due to be paroled, within a week of, her being murdered. So there's a lot of speculation. Of course, we'll never know who did it. Yeah. We won't. I mean, people even speculate Warden did it. I don't believe that for a second. He was too respected. Yeah, she was very instrumental in rehabilitation for the prisoners. The pageants, she got them involved in the singing. She would walk the galleries and sing to them, and her perfume would linger. And there you go. So everything kind of is relevant. So, and that's all reading, learning things about her. The other thing I think that people don't realize, like I would flip out a funny line every now and then, and people would look at me. Odette was a comedic opera diva. Get it? Okay. She was a funny girl.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Comedic opera diva means the funny operas. She was a leading lady, and she was very funny. And so there goes the smart aleck part of me. But I'd say to them, "Where have you seen the warden? Oh, he's back there. Oh, no, that's not my husband. He's much more handsome." And then they'd get all like, at some point, once you scare them, now I've got this whole area to entertain them, right?
Right. So,
scary. And if they make comments, well, then I can get snarky back, and then they laugh, and it's hilarious. And there's a lot you can do with those characters too, but keep in mind that she was a comedic opera diva with a company in California. So oh yeah, see, lots you don't know. So yeah, she was a pretty funny girl too. But she was very dedicated. Her and Warden Allen's mother, who was a pillar in the Joliet community, by the way. And did you know that Warden Allen's father was the warden of Joliet from 1893 to 1897.
Oh, so he kind of inherited the job from his father.
Well, sort of. There is in one of the books that I read, one of the guards who became the captain under the second Warden Allen's time as the warden. Warden Allen was playing baseball with the inmates, and his dad got really angry with him and said, "No, you can't do that." And he said, "Yeah, well, when I'm warden, there will be baseball." Well, guess what happened when Warden Allen took over? Baseball. See,
that's awesome.
The Honor Farm baseball team. Warden Allen's father, Robert Allen, is responsible for, in 1897, pulling stripes out. So he was the one with Bosch on stripes. Stripes were used for escape risk prisoners. Going forward. And then Edmund Allen adopted the more like Confederate Army kind of grays. that, and the trustees had certain levels and they had like patches. So it was almost kind of military way when the trustee chain came. But yeah, so Warden Allen his father was warden from 1893 to 1897. Now here's something else that people don't know about Warden Allen. He was the mayor of Joliet from 1911 until 1913. And he was the Democratic representative in 1912. So he was also the postmaster in Joliet.
Wow, he was doing everything.
Yeah, and he met Odette in Indiana. He was doing something in the prison thing and with reform and stuff, and he met Odette in Indiana. So yeah, how crazy is that? And his first wife had passed like 10 years earlier. So it took him a while to remarry Odette. It's not like, and his first wife, Elizabeth, passed away. And then, Odette came along. She was young. She was beautiful. The inmates loved her. She was kind of flirtatious, but she was an opera diva. So think about all that, going on. So, but I think, from what I've learned about both of them, yeah, I would have loved to have met them. A lot of respect there for what they tried to do, and knowing the history of what Warden Allen tried to do. And then after Odette was killed, and he got out of the prison system because he didn't want to, live where his wife was murdered. What a great loss, because, everything just by 1917, then everything went to hell, and there was the big riot, on June 5th of 1917, and everything just came to a head, and then the system went back there. So I think that's something that people can learn in history too, is like, we keep, you get these steps forward, someone who's like really chugging along, trying to do good things, and then bam, back we go. And I think that happens a lot in our prison system today, even still. So people learn the history.
Yeah, and we talked about how you guys incorporate it into your show. There's so much that you can add to that, even from where the show is today, and just build off of that. Zombie Army, they're up the road, and not to keep comparing, but they have to kind of create their own show. John has to write it and add details to it. You guys, not that it's any easier, but you get to pull from this rich history and incorporate it into your show. I remember when Old Joliet Haunted Prison first opened as an attraction, and I believe there was some kind of storyline with like a mad scientist doctor or whatever that opened up the prison, and it was good. But what you guys have done in recent years with it has been so much better, because you feel like you're in that, not in some kooky, wacky movie story. You're in the history that is going on right in front of your eyes, and I can tell that you, as being the historian, are one of the spokesmen for that, to push towards that. And going back to the haunt side of things, I mean, it's even scary enough that you kind of feel a presence. Now we've spoken with Danny Panic, and I know she comes and helps out in the summer, but she's mostly at 13th Floor's main location here in Schiller Park. But she's a little bit of a skeptic like myself, so I have yet to kind of feel or experience any of this going on at Old Joliet, but maybe Rivets will have to come by a couple more times. I did get a chance, like I said, to act with you guys, and I've been told it's a rare opportunity to be able to take a picture with the warden and the warden's wife, you and Adam. And I thought that was a phenomenal full circle moment kind of for me, because I had gone through as a fan and got to interact with you all, giving the warden's wife a handkerchief, and then being able to act with you guys. Can you speak on what it is that makes this Old Joliet Haunted Prison the entertainment group side of it so special and such a great tight-knit community?
Yeah, I can honestly say that there's a lot of nerds there, a lot of history nerds. I was so overwhelmed, and they want to know everything. And you give them a little bit of information, and they're incorporating it into their acts. That's how creative they are. I mean, it's amazing. But when they start asking questions about the prison's history and to see them light up, and then of course, now I've got someone I can talk to about the prison and tell them history, and that's so fun. But to see them light up because all of a sudden they get this like idea. Well, what if I did this? Yeah, perfect. Do it. Go for it. Try it. And for them to learn the history and be able to take it, use the real history as an inspiration for their characters and how they act. Wow, how cool is that to see evolve?
Yeah, even just the one night I was there, with the few things that you were telling me really helped in that lower block E section, because like you said, I was in one of those spaces like you are where you have that time to scare them, but now you have to fill that space because they're still walking past you. So I would use my slider gear and slide up and freak them out. And then next thing you know, I'm talking to them. I'm telling them, that they're fish and we're going to process them. And then I'm sending them up these stairs. And you had told me it was, what is it? Form a duo, form a pair
up
the stairs.
Pair it up.
Yeah. And that's what I was telling them. And they're looking at me like, I got to go up these stairs. And I'm just like, yeah, absolutely. You're in prison now,
Exactly. And I think too, and I don't recall if I told you this, but, the building that we haunt in, that everybody gets to walk through, that's not the original cell block. Of course, that's still off limits. You can see it go by me in the cemetery. That's what I'm talking about. I would love to be able to go in there and just stand there and take in all the awesomeness of the building. But the building that we haunt in, that building wasn't built until 2000. That was the actual prison yard. So they built that building, in 2000, and then of course closed it in 2002. But in 2000, when they built that building, see, they were still processing inmates through there, but that specific cell block was for the civilly committed sex offenders.
I do remember you telling me about that.
And so are a lot of people when I tell them that too. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, okay, now that makes sense. Okay. But yeah, not really. Yeah. It wasn't like, not very romantic. Well, maybe it was. I don't know. But it's just kind of like, wow. Okay, so now use that for your character. See? So you can think about all these things that, wow, pretty crazy.
I don't know if I want to make Rivets a civilly committed sex offender.
No.
I don't know if that fits into his story too well.
But yeah, no, and it kind of makes people stop and go, oh my God. So now it's like, oh, so I think maybe that people too hearing that, it's like, oh, what was that like here? Now, when I told you that, was your mind like going, oh, I wonder what that was like here? What happened here? Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. I was super excited to be in the location that I was in, to be able to use my slide gear and the full character and learn some of the history. And then you told me that, and I was like, maybe I should dial my excitement back a little bit, knowing where I'm going to be.
Yeah, I think it's important to know, that as well, though, because I think, but there is a lot of history. Like, when I first came in there, one of the things that somebody said to me was, they said, yeah, I wish my clown. I go, well, why aren't you doing a clown? That's a haunted house thing. Well, because John Wayne Gacy was here. No, John Wayne Gacy wasn't there. So there's that all push, that place had its own notorious criminals. We don't need John Wayne Gacy. Let him have his glory at Menard and Stateville where he was executed. They had James Earl Ray, who murdered Martin Luther King Jr. They had Eugene Hairston and Jeff Fort, who went in, they were with the Almighty Black Keystone Nation and became El Rukin. You had Roger Toohey. You had Owl Banghart. You had Bugs Moran and his gang. And I mean, the history there. I mean, okay, we had gangsters there. Let's do some gangster prisoners, man.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, and you were even talking a little bit about all of this in Project Limestone. So Gacy was they pulled up with him in the car, and then, right, they said, keep going. We don't want him here.
Warden Wolf said, yeah, no, keep going. Yeah, Warden Wolf told me exactly what he said to him. But if you really think about it, it was for his safety. Being a general population prison, Gen Pop, you didn't want to walk him in there. Somebody would have whacked him off. Somebody would have,
Right.
and that would have been, you know,
But
someone who
with the
life.
gangsters, did you guys have Al Capone at a certain point?
Al Capone was never in Old Joliet. What's
Right.
interesting is that Al Capone was arrested in Joliet as he got off the train for weapons charges, and he spent a night in Will County. And
Gotcha.
we can find the transcripts. I'll have to find them. But it is purported that he said, Judge, I will never carry a gun again in Joliet. Because
Yeah, in Joliet. Yeah.
key words right there. But yeah, so Capone, see, JCC, Joliet Correctional Center, ISP, and you kind of touched on this at the beginning, ISP, Illinois State Penitentiary at Joliet. And then, of course, all these monikers for it, JCC. But yeah, so ISP Joliet, that's what it was during, Capone's time. Yeah, no, state prison, he only did federal time because he was in Raz federal prison. And then, of course, at Penn State. And Penn State, they have his cell set up still. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen photos of it. I haven't been yet, but I will get there. That's on my radar to go and see, of course. So, but yeah.
Have you done a lot of other prisons? Have you ever toured some of the other more famous ones even?
No, it's on my radar. That's one of the things I wanted to do. And after getting let go from the historical museum and not being a tour guide anymore, it's like I've tried to regroup now, and I am currently at another museum right now, working with the members, doing memberships and that sort of thing. So now that things are kind of starting to get back into place, now I can start planning on going on photo hunts. I want to go to Ohio State Reformatory, as well. But yeah, I'd like to see some gangsters. That'd be cool. We've got some great gangsters for it, Joliet. Why not?
That'd be cool. That'd be very neat, very interesting. I mean, hey, you already have in the courtyard area, you have or the second attraction is the zombie laser tag, and there's already a lot of scenes that I was told were from specific video games. I don't know. I don't play enough video games of that manner to recognize any of them, but there is a saloon in there, so maybe a little bit more on the Wild West side of things, but hey, like that's not too far off from what gangsters ended up being. So, you can definitely fit that into the show at some point too.
Joliet, very rich history as far as the Irish mob.
Yeah.
Raleigh, there's a lot. Morris Enright, who was in Joliet, and after he was released from Joliet 2 years later, he was gunned down by Capone's gang, allegedly. So they were rivals. So you didn't have the Italians here in Joliet. Remember that. It was the Irish.
Well, I'm Irish too,
Yeah.
So I have it on both sides.
Yeah. So exactly. So yeah, this was more, Irish. But yeah, I think they've done a really good job tilting their hat to, to the history, but yeah, I'd love to see some mobsters. I think that would be really cool.
That would be really neat. Well, and then even so, at my day job, I have a lady that I spoke with that used to live down in the Joliet area, and she would talk about the prison and how things were back in the day. And one of the things that she brought up to me, which is what I've molded this Rivets character around. Now, I've had Rivets here at the Home Haunt for forever. It was a much more Home Haunt-esque costume. I made upgrades, and that's why he looks the way he does now. But when I was adding to it, and I was using things that I already had, like my grandfather's National Guard pants for that look and everything, I wanted to say, okay, well, what fits this prison outfit but with these pants, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily see the guard also wearing the stripes. So it's a little bit of a mishmash when you first look at it. But what she had told me was, and I Joliet being the prison city, that's where some of that just, you can immediately pull inspiration there. But there was also a CCC, a Civilian Conservation Corps camp that was right up the road in Lockport. And that was back in the time where the government was establishing these camps for young men in order to get work, to find money during war times too. I think mostly during World War One. But then, it was literally, when I looked it up, where the camp used to be. There's like a little post still commemorating where it was. It's right up the road from where Hell's Gate is. It's the bus actually for Hell's Gate takes you right past this little camp, and so it's right there on what they call Murder Road. And as we've had many Hell's Gate crew on here before, they talk about, yeah, it definitely does feel like a place that would be called Murder Road at night, especially because of how many potholes, how many bumps. But then on top of it, you have that creek right there, and they looked up that there were a lot of bodies dumped in that creek. And then you have the fact that on the other side of them, on that small little peninsula almost that Hell's Gate is on, you have where the south branch of the Chicago River meets up with the Des Plaines River and then goes south and runs into the Mississippi. So that was a major, it still is a major travel route for a lot of big ships and barges and stuff. And so if they could just ship down from Chicago, these mobsters would be dumping their bodies in Joliet and Lockport.
True. That is the whole truth. I mean, yeah. So there's a lot of, real interesting, with the with all of the waterways. Yeah, there's so much, and the trains. Trains is gotta remember the trains. Memphis Minnie wrote a song, Joliet Bound. It's about going to Joliet. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of influence too in music as far as the prison. And, so Joliet Bound, it could be used as a moniker for you're going to prison, or you're going to be, exactly. So, or you're going to end up in a creek or something. But yeah, there's a lot of underground tunnels in this area from when, Capone was out here, like in Crystal Lawns area. So there's just the history's phenomenal. And there's just so much good stuff too. Like you touched on the wars, the prisoners used to make, toys for the children of the state of Illinois during the holidays. During the First World War, before the United States got involved, they were shipping containers, those big shipping containers on the boats. The inmates went to Warden Allen and said, "Hey, we want to help in the war effort," and they made toys, and they shipped like 5 shipping containers of toys they made over to the children of Europe. Things that people, I know, see, and that's what's so amazing. And that's history that's lost that people don't know. People want to hear they never think of the good stuff. And if anything good can come out, they were still patriots. The people who were in prison, they were still, I know patriots kind of has a different connotation these days, but for me, being old, patriots is someone who loves their country. Those men and women repaired the uniforms for the soldiers, the parachutes, and they did it with pride. They had purpose, and that was part of the reformist movement. So that there's a lot of really cool stuff like that happened that people don't know, and it needs to be brought to light. And I think that's a really cool thing. And I just bothers me. And I would love to see, like with the Krampus, I'd love to see prisoners making freaking toys for kids. Get a prisoner, get someone in stripes making a toy for a kid or something like that. I mean, that would be fun. But there's a lot that still can be done at Joliet. They've got a lot of avenues. All they have to do is ask me, and they do. Derek asks me questions, Brian's asked me questions, and I love it. I'm like, if I can inspire anybody to include any kind of the history, because there is just so damn much. Holy crap. You could have about 100 different shows in that place with all the history, like there's great history with O'Leary and the Chicago Fire. I mean,
and that connects to Joliet Prison.
It sure does. 1871. after the Chicago fire. Now, the whole tale is it was O'Leary's cow. Remember that. Now,
Right.
that's important. But 1871, see, Joliet was known for its bread baking. It had huge bread ovens. So after the fire, they ramped up their bread baking, and the inmates, they were going 24/7 and baked bread for the people of Chicago to feed them.
Wow.
So it was very well known, and you can, there's pictures of it. I can share these with you sometime too, of the inmates standing there with these racks of bread, these loaves of bread, and they fed, the people of Chicago after the Chicago fire.
That's amazing.
Isn't that
I think you had told that story. Did you tell that story in Project Limestone?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, okay. Maybe you had just told me bits and pieces. I do remember you talking about something about them baking bread, but yeah, I forgot how that connected to the Chicago fire.
Well, of course, in the Paul Harvey fashion, I have to tell you the rest of the story, because years later, then you get Puggy O'Leary, who comes to Joliet on murder charges. He murdered his mistress and his sister, who saw him murder his mistress. And he actually died in Joliet and was buried in convict cemetery in Monkey Hill. And yes, he was a cousin of the O'Learys. There you go. Yep, the cow-kicking O'Learys. Yes, he was a cousin. So yeah, so here they are baking bread for the people of Chicago, and now we have Puggy O'Leary coming in, 20 years after the fire, because he's doing time for murder, and he's actually buried in Monkey Hill. How crazy is that? See, I love stuff like that. It just cracks me up that there's connection that kind of goes around. Oh, here we were baking bread for the O'Leary fire, and now we have Joliet.
That's weird. The Irish are doing everything down there. They're mobsters. They're knocking over lanterns and causing fires and forcing the Joliet prisoners to have to bake bread. And then next thing you know, they are Joliet prisoners.
Yeah,
so
it's insane. I know. There's a lot of really great gangster history that we could talk about sometime too, that actually correlates Joliet. I mean, there's so much, Mike. I can't even believe when I started really digging into the history of Joliet and starting connecting all the dots, so to speak. Wow, this place is cool. This is a great place to live if you're a history nerd like me. No doubt. And of course, Mike's Irish, by the way.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and his family's been here since, the early or the late 1800s. So
okay,
yeah, so they're right around the Civil War when his family started coming in. So, because remember, and people don't forget this, Joliet is a pre-Civil War prison. Don't forget.
Wow, yeah,
because it was built in, it opened in 1858. So pre-Civil War prison. So people need to realize that too. And think about the history of it. And I'm just going to throw this out there because this is some people don't realize. Pre-Civil War, Illinois is a free state. Yes, of course it is. But we don't have slaves. But Illinois, if slaves do escape, we are obligated to return them to the state at that point in time.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is that the majority of the population of Joliet was immigrants from Ireland and Germany. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
The population was mostly white. They were immigrants. So I think people need to go back and read their history too, because a lot of people, I think they need to realize that, somebody, the youngest inmate in Joliet was 10 years old. You know that?
Wow.
Because it was.
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. It was before they had a juvie system.
Right, yeah.
Okay. He was 10 years old. He got 10 years for stealing a horse.
My goodness.
So now his cellie was an older man. Right?
Yeah.
They didn't have juvie, so hopefully he had someone who treated him right. But yes, the youngest inmate was 10 years old at Joliet, got 10 years for stealing a horse. So I always tell people when I was on the tours, I'd find the youngest kid and I say, do not commit grand theft equine or you could end up in a place just like this. And that's still a hanging offense, by the way. Yeah, so I mean, you want to talk about some sentences that were like way out of whack? There you go. 10 years for stealing a horse for a 10-year-old boy. I mean, women were getting 5 to 10 years for prostitution. 5
Wow.
to 10 years for prostitution.
I'm glad a couple of those things got amended in there. Holy cow.
Yeah. And yeah, I get it where people think sentences are really wacky now, but they were wacky back then too. So nothing's really changed about that. And speaking of the women, you know what I'd love to see Joliet to do? I'm probably going to have to like write this down and tell Brian and Derek and even Katie. You know, there's some notorious women that were at Joliet that, you know, characters could be based on. If you've seen the musical Chicago, have you seen the musical Chicago?
I have not. I mean, I
Okay.
know the premise and I've seen bits and pieces, but
So the woman, Roxy, is loosely based on a prisoner from Joliet who owned a saloon and she poisoned her customers and they would die. So there you go.
nice.
Yes, isn't that great? So you've also got who I think you've got another woman who tried to escape and ended up hanging herself when she went over the wall because her rope was too short. Whoops.
Not the greatest Rapunzel there.
Yeah. And you have I would love to see this character done. Fainting Bertha. So Fainting Bertha, she had about 18 aliases. She's the only woman who actually escaped from Joliet. Yes.
Wow.
Successfully. And they didn't want her because she escaped from like all these institutions. But Fainting Bertha, she was a very, very pretty woman. And she would kind of cozy up to these very well-dressed gentlemen and faint in their arms. And when she fainted, she picked their pocket as she passed out. Fainting Bertha. I would love to see her at Joliet as a character. I think she'd be great. I think that would be a great, you know, for someone to model a character after her. You know, I think
that would be hilarious.
Yeah, little stories like that would make a great big character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Here's a
so I I know it was your love for Old Joliet Prison that brought you into Old Joliet Haunted Prison and 13th Floor. But what were your first thoughts when you joined this cast? Had you had much interest in haunting before that, or in the Halloween holiday as it is?
Oh, it's so funny that you say that. Maybe, Mike, one day I'll go to a haunted house and you can become with me first time, because I've haunted house. I don't like them. They scare me. The only haunt that I've actually walked through was Horror on Highland. Thank you, Adam. That was like the first haunted house I ever walked through, and that was last year. So do the math. Yes, do not like haunted houses. They scare the hell out of me. However, scaring people, whole different thing. It's a whole different thing. I will tell you that I've been in the slaughterhouse, but I never acted in the laser tag area. I never did that. But yeah, I've been around pretty much. But yeah, I mean, I really didn't know what to think, because I thought, God, I'm old. All these kids have so much energy. And believe it or not, that really helped me, because when you're around younger people, you act younger and you start, it's almost like a mental thing. Okay, I got to compete with them. Like, here, hold my beer, watch this. It's like, for me, hold my Ensure, watch this. But yeah, I mean, and I didn't know how it was going to go. I honestly, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'll just run around with my keys and scare the hell out of people. And then as my character keys developed, it was like, okay, now people are peeing their pants. This is great. I want to do this some more. So I know that sounds so weird, isn't it? But it became a challenge for me. And I liked the character that I played. But I like my new character better. I like her. It gives me a chance to really, I don't know, do some cool stuff, and I get to be out there in the cemetery, But yeah, I didn't know what it was going to be like, and I I almost didn't come back, like I said, just because of all the stuff that was going on and I was dealing with. And I really, by the end of the year, they say if you get to the end of something and you're like dreading going to work, then maybe it's not for you anymore. That's kind of how it got for me at the end of the season last year. And Katie and Adam are like, no, Christine, please come back. Please come back. And Katie's like, I have a new character for you. And they got me excited to come back. So kudos to all the kids who thought enough of me to include me. And that's another thing that's so amazing about my haunt family. And I think that banner says it all. Friendships end up in life sentences or whatever it says. I think
yeah. Oh, the Haunting with Friends banner. Yeah.
That's so true. It is so true. I feel like these people, you guys have all been so, for an old fart like me to come in, and this is a young person sport. Don't get me wrong. You guys, hey, I'm going to tell you, 25 years ago, oh yeah, I'd have been giving you guys a run for your money. I slide on the floor now, I'll break a hip and I'll be of no use to But keeps me young. I know it's something weird, but it does. You guys keep me young, and your enthusiasm is what brought me back. Everybody's enthusiasm. So kudos to, Emily and Zach and Adam and Katie especially. She was really instrumental in having me come back. And the inclusion, wow. I think that's when I came back this year, that's something that I was very, and when I met you for the first time, and I didn't know who you were when I gave you the handkerchief or whatever,
right.
And Adam, because Adam says, he goes, we're going to do this handkerchief thing. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Because Katie and I did key things last year. And I didn't know it was you. And, it was just really cool how I met you that way. And I'm really appreciated the fact that you appreciated what we were trying to do. And of course, my character was at the very, very infant stages that first night you came in, and she developed, went on. So yeah, I kind of became very scary as it went on, because as the crowds got bigger and there were so many people coming through, I couldn't do like my whole theatrical thing like I wanted to. So I would just stare at people and give them the Scut Farkas mom scare with my yellow eye. Hell out of them.
We have cast here that are the same as you. They love acting like that, and they love the performance side of things, but won't go through other shows. They're too scared.
Yep.
So that kind of answers my next question: do you go out and see other shows? Do you get a chance to even see other like decorated haunts? Because that Lockport Joliet area is just so saturated and rich with haunt events, even decorated houses, that it makes them like soar above a lot of the rest.
I'd like to go. I mean, I'm just a big chicken. I mean, I think next year I'll probably, I hear a lot about Hell's Gate, and I really do want to go, because I hear the performances are phenomenal because of the story. And for me, story, history, anything like that, it kind of puts a different twist on things when you have a history. Like I saw the videos when Statesville closed and all. I saw when they did the promo video of the inmates going over on the bus. That was fantastic marketing. Kudos to whoever invented that. It was phenomenal. I actually saved that video because I thought it was so well done to see them break out of Statesville on the bus. And, now I'm learning, I met these people. I'm like, oh, that was you in there? You're cool. So it kind of opened up a whole new world to me. But yeah, a lot of great people. But yeah, I think because it's almost like a soap opera for me to follow those characters, over to Hell's Gate. But yeah, I mean, they've got to be scaring the hell out of people because everybody says, they're amazing. So I do feel like I need to suck it up, Buttercup, here a little bit and go and realize that they're doing to me what I would do to them if they came through our haunt too. And my son will not come through my haunt.
Oh, really?
He is scared to death.
Oh, no.
He won't. He won't. He's like me. He won't. He goes, Mom, you scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Really think I'm going to have you scare the shit out of me again now? And I still do it to him. It's great. And I got my granddaughter doing it to him now, too. It's great.
Oh my gosh.
I show her pictures. She goes, spooky Yaya. I'm like, yes, Yaya. She loves it. She's going to be a future haunter, I think. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think I'll have to suck it up and go through a haunt. But yeah, I loved Adam's haunt. That was great. The community.
It gets busy during the season for you guys too, I'm sure. It is for all of us, and even my group. We try to get out to as much as we can, but it's tough. The Christmas season though coming up. You mentioned Krampus earlier. The Christmas season gives us a chance to see some things as well. Are you going to be able to make it out on Saturday for Adam's Silent Night production?
Yep, we're going to be there. Mike and I are planning on being there. Depending on how he feels. Adam actually just was over yesterday. He picked up all the Halloween or Christmas decorations that I got for his stuff. But yeah, and I put my name in the hat for Krampus at Schiller Park, 13th floor.
Oh,
yeah,
nice, awesome.
Here for that. So hopefully I'll get called to act. I'm available Saturday and Sunday. So fingers crossed that they pick me, you guys. Yeah, fingers crossed that I get to act at Krampus this year. So I think that would be really cool.
That is awesome. We're going to try to make it out to that show as well. That whole weekend is busy with Christmas haunts, so I don't know if I'm going to be acting for some of it and then going to see the rest of it, or what my plans are. I have to reach out to a couple of people and see what's needed, or what we can go to. So that should be a fun weekend as well.
Yeah, and like you said, with the family, with the people that I've met, and oh my God, you guys, your enthusiasm's phenomenal, and the haunting with friends, with Matt, and oh my God, Mike and I have felt so welcomed into your community. It's just unbelievable. It's like, I found my peeps. And after we went through what we've gone through, that's been so traumatic for us, to turn around and have someone say, oh no, we want to hear the history. Come in here. We like you guys. You're cool. You're important. And wow, what an about face from the situation that we were faced with at the other place. But wow, you guys really have done an amazing job. I can't even believe this industry is an industry. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I get the same thing from a lot of people. They're like, I didn't know this was an industry and it's separate from just the Halloween holiday in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea until I don't know the Schiller Park at 13th floor. Do you know Gris and Jay the bird? Harsh bird. Jay
don't
and Gris,
think so.
Well, they're actors. They were in May of 2023, they came for halfway to Halloween to act. And I was still working as a tour guide at the other place. And they came in and they were doing a self-guided, and I got to talk to them. Well, Gris, she's such a doll. I love her. Her and Jay were really instrumental in getting me over there in the first place when I got let go, because I gave Gris an idea, because I told her that the women were allowed to have their children with them until the age of 5, and that there were children who died there. Well, she just takes this whole thing. I said, you got a little baby doll? She goes over there and acts that night and pretends to have a baby and is crying over her baby, and everybody loved it. So boom, there's the first link to history right there, is with Gris. So I'm hoping that I get to act with them at Krampus, because they both, and Jay comes over and does guest acting at OJHP. So I'm hoping that I get to see them. But yeah, I mean, wow, how cool is that the connection all started way back 2 weeks before I got fired. Who'd have ever thought that it would have come to this? And yeah, I'm just really lucky. I'm very lucky. And I'm not one of those people that goes around and saying I'm blessed or anything. Yeah, I'm blessed. I gotta admit it. I am. I'm very fortunate to have. It's like my mom always says, when one door closes, the window slams your fingers in it. So, but no, I'm just kidding. She, No, she always said something always good always comes out, whether you realize it or not. And boy, did it turn out differently than I thought it would.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that somebody that was like the wick that was burning down, and I'm glad that right before that 2 week mark, somebody restarted the wick for you, because this is your industry too now. You're as much of a part of it as the rest of we are, and you're just as passionate about it,
Mhm.
and even more so because it includes real history. But we've been tiptoeing around the bush on the main topic here, is that in Project Limestone, the audience got to learn the tragic information about how the city of Joliet has closed down the prison to tours and removed you from your position. But a committee, along with Blood Moon Paranormal, are fighting to reopen the historical aspect of the prison. Are there any updates since that documentary was filmed on that front to get you guys back in there?
Well, no, and let me make this very clear. The city of Joliet has nothing to do with my being fired. Okay. The
Oh,
city
okay.
that leases the property from the state of Illinois. The city of Joliet has handed the management of the prison to the Joliet Area Historical Museum. I worked at the Joliet Area Historical Museum as a history tour guide, okay, at the old Joliet Prison. My husband was a volunteer with the museum for 16 years, and he took no pay and did the guard tours. So, for whatever reason, we were terminated. It was not pretty at all. Watch Project Limestone. That's all I can say. Zach did an amazing job of covering that, and hats off to him. That man, I was so impressed with him with the things he said at the end. Wow, blow me away. Yeah, for a young Jedi, he's got his head in straight.
Yeah.
But as far as anything, we have met with the city manager. I have done emails to Greg Peerbolt and Kelly Klobuchar and the mayor, and no one will answer us. No one will answer us. Oh, sorry, we can't help you. It's a personnel matter. Okay, it's going on 2 years. This is not a personnel matter. It's not a personnel matter. This is not, it never was. And the reason I'm fighting so hard, Mike, is because of my Mike. How
Yeah.
can you, someone who worked there professionally for 15 years, a veteran, a union worker, how can you fire someone over email who volunteered, who gave their heart and soul? They have no idea what they've done to Michael. Anybody who can go watch that, watch Act 3, watch what happens to my husband when he talks about it. That about broke my heart. It broke my heart. I had no idea that happened. Zach didn't tell me. And when I saw it, I literally had to stop because I was on Team Rewatch. I was working that night at the Joliet Haunted Prison.
Right.
Yeah, great time to release it, Zach, when we're all working so that we can like on the mainstream, whatever. But that kind of reignited my fight, but I haven't heard anything. I really haven't, since Project Limestone came out. I thought I would let Project Limestone come out and see if anything evolved. And it hasn't. And I don't know on Zach's front. I know that they're trying, I think, to work on some things to try to get the history back. I don't know. I would love to go back and just, I don't have to work for the Joliet Historical Museum anymore. Just don't banish me from some place that I love, that is part of my life, part of my husband's life. It's not wrong. They're denying us, I think at this point, and I'm just going to say it, for a place that really wants to, that's managing a prison and wants to make it a place of conscience and healing, and saying that the justice system is screwed up and 75% of the inmates in there were innocent, and then to fire employees and volunteers with no due process. That sounds a little bit hypocritical. quite
Yeah.
frankly. And it's like, how can you stand for that when you've done this to people who absolutely care about this place? It's horrible. And everybody, and quite frankly, I think they're all a bunch of pussies. I'm sorry, I had to say it. I have never, and you know what? People who don't say anything or do anything allow the bully to continue to does what he do. But everybody thinks he's a great hero because of the Gemini giant. Well, let me tell you something about the Gemini giant. I'm gonna go have my picture taken with the Gemini giant. See if I get arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you said that in the documentary.
Yeah.
I watched it just the same as you guys probably right when it came out, because when I had guest acted with you guys, it was right before it came out. I think it
Right.
came out within the next few days after that, or maybe the next week, because I was with you guys towards that end of the season.
Yeah, because it
And
got owned a week. Remember? It got
yes,
a week. So
yeah, and when you had told me about that, I had heard of Blood Moon and everything that Zach and Emily do through Danny Panic, and just seeing Zach's stuff before that, and then when I you kind of perked my ears up to look out for it, and when it finally dropped and I watched it, I was like, wow, there's so much here. And I believe in there you even said that they were telling you that if you step foot on the property that it's criminal trespassing. And
exactly.
I mean, how do you go about treating people like that, especially like you said for your husband Mike for 15 years, and he gets an email like you said, they're kind of pussies because like they can't come and just say it to his face that, hey, we're very sorry, but we thank you for your time. And no, it was just an email, just a cold email.
Yeah, and you can't step on the and what's really interesting, what they did is, and I'm just gonna say it because this makes me mad, and I want people to know this. Mike was at Abraham Lincoln Cemetery. He does the services for the veterans on Fridays. They knew it. And they fired me in person, and they fired Mike by email because he was Elwood, and they knew he wasn't going to come to the prison when I got fired. So tell me that that wasn't a catch. Yeah, think about that. That's the only day he's not in Joliet is Friday.
That was a scaredy cat move. That was definitely them with their tail between their legs, just trying to get out of there and not have to have any blowback for the wrong decision they were making.
Yeah, exactly. But I called Mike when I got fired. He goes, hey, I just got fired via email. I go, I just got fired in person, and like screamed at. So, and I'm going to tell you, there is a tape, there is a recording of Greg firing me, and it's not pretty. And I will drop that if I have to. If they do not stop this stupid crap, I will drop that recording and everybody can hear it and hear him me of crimes and hear him accuse me of being, threatening his wife and his children. How dare him? Oh, yeah. Oh, surprise. Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Getting revealed on Blood Moon on Project Limestone. Yes, he accused me of threatening his wife and his children and said that, says this on a recording, and it is a legal recording. I don't care what anybody says. There is a video camera in the front box in the very public place that he fired me, and with 3 other museum managers there and 3 of my coworkers who heard it. Yeah.
Wow.
And 2 of my coworkers tried to get in to help me, and they wouldn't let them into room to help me. They blocked me in a room. Oh, yeah, surprise. They blocked me in a room. I could not get out of the room. But
wow.
I'm criminal, and I'm despicable.
And not to discredit everything that we just talked about, all the rich history and stuff like that, but this isn't even over like current history or current politics or something. This was over you just being somebody who is informative, a historian. It's not like you are, going out and spreading some kind of propaganda that is going to drastically affect the way people think today. I mean, yeah, it will drastically affect the way they think. in a better way. And like you said, it's a way for people to reflect on the mistakes of the past and think, hey, let's not make the same mistakes in the future. But it's way more passive than aggressive.
Yeah.
Like, that is insane.
Oh, yeah. And to top it off, and I said this in my interview, I was in the middle of a tour when I got pulled off a tour.
I remember you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my supervisor didn't even know they were firing me.
Oh my gosh.
No idea. He didn't know what happened to me. He finished the tour.
Well, at least the people got the rest of the tour, but
well, it was
wow.
really sad about that tour. And I'll tell you, this was one thing about the tour. My supervisor, whose name happened to be Zach, and I still talk to Zach a lot. We were doing a group we have a lot of like schools from that are like developmentally disabled adults that go out on these trips. Well, one of them was this group that I had given several tours to. They loved coming to the prison. They'd eat their lunch in the middle of the tour, and then we'd give them the rest of the tour. Because, they were, autistic adults, high functioning. Some were nonverbal, whatever. They'd bring these groups and they loved us. They would come out and I loved them. They pulled me off of one of those tours. And I had one young man, as I was getting what I call my perp walk,
wow, yeah.
Off, one of them started following me. He's like, Christine. Now these aren't kids. These are
yeah.
adults. And I turned around and I said, hold on, hon, just 1 second. And I said, excuse me, Greg, we need to get going. I go, you need to wait 1 minute. I said, because he doesn't understand what's going on and I need to tell him to go back to the group. Now, remember when he pulled me off this tour, what I'm asking is Mike okay? Is my husband okay? Did something happen? That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Is my husband okay? Why are you pulling me off? So I had to walk this man back to the group and say, I'll be back. And he's like, Christine, you're going to be back, right? I promise I'll be back. Okay, because I need you here. Because he would hold my hand through these tours. He was a very sweet guy. And they get back on. How devastating it was for them. Well, fast forward to I think it was this spring, I'm working at another museum and this group comes in and oh my God, Christine, there you are. What happened to you?
Oh, wow.
Now you can't tell me that didn't leave a mark on them.
Yeah.
And the guy was there and he's hugging me and he's like, Christine, oh my God, I thought you died. That's what he said. Well, come on, all of a sudden someone's there and then you never see them. And then a year and a half later, you see them again. And I had to explain to the chaperone what happened. He goes, well, they won't even let us come back and go for tours because they said they don't have any tour guides anymore. Now that's a shame because now people aren't getting history because there's no tour guides.
Yeah.
You can only sign so much. Sorry, but you're going to get the stories from, like Mike, and I hope you get a chance to I'm sorry that Mike's not feeling so good, but man,
no,
some cool stuff, man. And the stories he has, you're pulling that real history and not giving the people, you're doing a disservice to the people of the city of Joliet and a disservice to the businesses and people who profit from tourism because you've pulled this element out now because they're so selfish. They have blinders on. I swear to God.
It's almost the equivalent to burning books because you're restricting a lot of history, a lot of information. But as you just touched upon right there, it's almost worse than that because it's also killing tourism. Like you said, it's killing jobs. It's killing people's entertainment, to be able to go out and do these types of tours. So, yeah, that is insane.
The paranormal. Oh my God, that was horrible. The thing is they did have paranormal groups in that I was like, roll my eyes, roll my eyes, roll my eyes. Okay. I know you said you're a skeptic. So next time you're at Joliet, you stick with me and I guarantee you will have an experience because I'm a magnet. But just, see, this makes me so mad because there's so much short-sightedness. They just don't understand what they have done to, people were starting to expect, such a high level when they went in, and they were getting mad because they're like, well, people are requesting you on tours. Okay. So what's wrong with word of mouth?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Right.
Well, it was like, well, it's not a good thing because you are self-promoting. I'm like, I'm not exactly. This is
what
blowback I got. I'm not kidding you. And I'm like, what are you freaking talking about? And then they called Mike, or they told Mike he was a racist because he used the word twerking in one of his. I'm not kidding. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. There's so much, Mike. It's just to the point where I just want to start telling people this stuff because it's just so damn funny. Quite honestly.
Wow.
Yeah. He was describing. He'll tell you a story. He was describing. He was in Tower 1, and it was visiting hours, and it was late, and these women came out of the front box, and they were walking past the East Cell house, and they were dancing. And Mike says they were dancing, they were doing, they were twerking before it was called twerking. That makes him a racist. And you know what his response was? Why is that racist?
Yeah, what? It doesn't make any sense.
What twerk? I mean, that was 2012 when Miley Cyrus was twerking, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and right away they're like, and he goes, well, I never said what color the women were. Why do you think it's racist?
Yeah, what?
They made assumptions, and he's like, and I said to him one day, I go, so hey, were these white chicks? He's like, no, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right? What the heck?
What we were dealing with. And when they told Mike and Ron that 75% of the inmates were innocent, I thought, I have never heard those two guys laugh so hard in all my life. Like, they did not believe that Mike did not carry a weapon inside that prison. Do you know? Yeah, it's like, what? This is how it really was. Yes, it was bad for the guards too. And
Yeah.
they and the employees. I mean, the stories. It's like they want to sugarcoat things. They want to focus on, and that's one of the things I said to you at the beginning about the population being immigrants, Germans.
Yeah.
Irish, they were white. Okay. Well, what are they focusing on now? They're not focusing on the history and how it evolved from mostly an immigrant population to being a majority of Black Americans. You see what I mean? They just try to make you think it was always about Black people being suppressed from 1858, and it's not how it was.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's history. There's factual evidence that you are bringing to the light, to the forefront, and I mean, now people don't know that, and they're making assumptions, and they're taking what was said by your husband and assuming or making an inference or taking what he said and building something within their own minds that they should turn around and look in the mirror and ask if they themselves are racist, that they just so assumed what color somebody is based on what they said or what Mike said that they were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all so overly thought and drawn out on their end.
Oh, I know. And it's interesting because when I was giving the tours, I asked people, I said, okay, I need to ask you guys this question. You have to work with me here. It's not because I'm dumb. It's because I need to know what the world prefers. And you guys are the world of Black Americans. So is it African Americans or is it Black Americans? Is it black and white? What is it? And you know what people said to me? Well, thanks for asking. That was the first thing they said to me. And you know what the second thing they said? We're Black. We're not from Africa.
There you go.
And I was blown away. And I'm like, well, Black Americans implies that you're Black, your skin color's Black, not that I give a rat's ass, but you're from America. African American means that you're of African descent.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. And they were high-fiving me and kudos. They didn't like that we were telling the Gus Reed story. Gus Reed was an inmate who was at Joliet, and the guards waterboarded him and handcuffed him. Cell. They killed him. And it's a horrible story, but they won't let us tell that. Why?
It's history, though.
I mean, it's so...
You didn't do it.
I know. I didn't. Yeah, exactly. And
that you're just retelling something like what we said before is an account of a mistake that was made. Whether he was guilty or innocent, nobody should deserve to die like that. And, we got to learn from those mistakes.
Well, and of course, then my response was, well, if you don't want us to tell the story, then you shouldn't carry that book in the gift shop. But, oh, well. Sorry. And if you do paranormal tours, then do not carry haunted Joliet prison books in your gift store. Don't be... If you don't want us to talk about stripes, then get that damn banner off the wall that has all the prisoners walking in lockstep in stripes.
Wow.
You see the hypocrisy here? This is what I'm fighting against, is the hypocrisy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's 100%.
And, there are certain paranormal groups, like I said, that I've worked with, like Shane Pittman and Dave Schrader. And Dave Schrader really went to bat for us. I'll have to send you the link of that. You'll love that. And Chris Fleming, these people relied on us for the history. And the thing is, with you being a skeptic, I'm a skeptical believer. But with you being a skeptic, when you're a historian and you have people from all over the world saying to you, hey, I heard this here, I saw this here, blah, blah, blah. And it's the same thing over and over and over. And then you experience, it's kind of hard to discount it. When you're with a group like that, where they embrace the history and you don't tell them anything, and then they come up with a name or something, and you're like, oh, I know who that is.
Wow.
It validates them and it validates you. Here's a perfect example. We had a group in, it was with Chris Fleming. It was Shane Pittman's group that I was with that night. And they were picking up several sensitives were getting the name Uncle Tom. 3 of them got the name Uncle Tom. And I'm like, why is that familiar? And it has nothing to do with the book. Right. So it didn't hit me right away. So I'm at breakfast with Mike, and I said, Mike, Uncle Tom. He goes, oh, the prisoner's friend. And I'm like, damn it, that's it. Uncle Tom, yes, was the prisoner's friend. And yeah, here you go. In the 1878, there was Uncle Tom. He was the prisoner's friend. He was like a clergyman. And they actually had a plaque made for him that was in the guard hall every day. Mike would pass by it every day. And it's actually in the Joliet Area Historical Museum display right now. But it's a plaque about Uncle Tom, the prisoner's friend. And I was able, the next day I get on the phone with Shane Pym. I'm like, it's Uncle Tom, the prisoner's friend, blah, 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 blah. And it brings like this whole new thing, this whole new aspect to their investigations. Because when you pick up something historical like that nobody knows, it's really, really cool. Like people hearing keys in the East Cell House. Well, there was a deputy warden that was killed in there.
Okay.
Who, that's, walked with his keys. I have had people tell me that, sensitives tell me that they see guards around me when I'm walking around.
Wow.
But they're not present day. They're wearing the uniforms. They're like from the 1800s, the late 1800s, the guard uniforms that they're wearing, because they're the long coats. And they have and I've had one young lady, I gave her my phone number for something. They were going to do an investigation. I gave them the afternoon tour. I came home to get a couple hours sleep. And as I get home, she sends me a text message and she says, I'm seeing a guy on a horse. Why are there people with horses here? I go, describe the guy. So she describes the guard uniform. And I go, well, where he's at behind the cistern there to your right, and I actually called her. I'm like, can you see the cistern? She goes, yeah. I go, to the right. I go, that's called the mule barn or the carriage house. I said, that's where they used to keep the horses because they had horses, because that's how the guards got around. Wow, and the horse tied all over. Yeah. And she's like, well, that explains why I'm seeing a guard on a horse.
And plain as day, she was seeing it.
And she was that kind of a sense, and she was drawing pictures of everything she saw, and everything she saw, she came in completely cold. And when I gave them my tours, I just kind of touched on a few dates of buildings and stuff, because you don't want to give it away to them.
Right.
And a lot of them want to come in cold for that reason. This girl had pictures. I'm like, oh, yep. Boom, boom, boom. She's like, why am I getting 3 figures right here in North Sag? It's really weird. It's like this one day they're all crammed in. I go, because the first night, she goes, and they're all crying out for help. They're all dying. These 3 guys are dying. It's like at this one time. I go, well, the very first night that they held executions at Joliet, 3 men were executed.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And she's like, why am I seeing blood and people coughing? Tuberculosis.
Yep.
I mean,
oh my gosh.
But you see how the history is so relevant to people who are credible. So, I mean, no disrespect to a lot of the paranormal stuff. I've seen some real yahoos. Okay. No, seriously, I have. And I'm just like, I got to tell we had this group, Ed and Mike and I were there, and I was actually kind of like trying to hide my laughter because they were absolutely disrespectful and ridiculous. So I talked up the West Cell House to them. Oh, it's always active, blah, blah, blah. Well, I went in there, before the event happened. I go, hey guys, I'm telling you right now, this is a group of yahoos. Everybody just be quiet tonight. They got no activity that night. Came to me the next day, said, Christine, I thought you said this place was active. I go, well, it is. I don't know what happened. And that was so funny about it. Is I was in there with my supervisor, Zach, and I'm like, way to go, you guys. No activity. You guys rock. And we could hear banging. Like,
oh my.
Like, oh, it was hilarious. I'm serious. And Zach and I were dying because we were laughing so hard. It was like everybody was, you form a bond with these spirits, and they do. I know, and I'm telling you, I was a skeptical believer, totally skeptical believer. But hearing EVPs with my name on it, doppelganger effects that I've seen, Big Rob, and he wasn't there. He was in another part of the prison, and Shane and I saw Rob Doppelganger. We've smelled cigarette smoke, Odette's perfume. We've heard the singing. We've heard keys. We've seen the point of light flashlights. You cannot discount something that you and others have seen and people from all over the world have seen. You can't discount something like that. And it's the same over and over and over. And I think there's some kind of crazy. Yeah, there's residual stuff. There's some kind of a time shift thing. It's really weird. I can't explain it. It's happened a couple times where I looked at my watch and then I felt like I did like Groundhog Day. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's very strange. And I'm not the first one that's felt that there. And it doesn't matter what time of day, by the way. You don't have to be there at night.
Wow. We have so many stories that we would love to have on here from you and from Mike, and I'm sure this isn't even like the tip of the iceberg of what what you've experienced and stuff. So we'll have to get you back on to talk more about this.
Yeah, we'll make a specific thing, like a story about a prisoner, or like what's the connection with George Chase who killed. I mean, there's all kinds of cool, really cool things that we can talk about. And even with the women's prison, with the women's prisoners. And that's something that I would like to see, that I wanted to do when I was at the other place, was specifically focus on a tour about the women.
Right.
women, the notorious women prisoners that were there, and they wouldn't let me. I'm like, but they're important. Just
Yeah.
that building, we talk about the annex, the women's prison, and I've been to Dwight, where the women were transferred to, by the way. That's closed now, but I had the opportunity to go in there and photograph it as well. It's pretty damn cool. I don't know that anybody's Dwight, but it's really cool. And I will tell you, Zach and his team, the Blood Moon team, spot on with the stuff.
Yeah.
And watching Eric's face and is priceless. I swear to God, his face is priceless.
They have quite the views. I'm looking right now. It's 13,000 views on just the Joliet Prison video alone. They have 8.94 thousand subscribers. So they are, Zach is doing some amazing work, and those numbers add up, rightfully so. We're not quite there yet on the Voodoo podcast. So if everybody's listening out there, make sure to follow us on all of your favorite podcasts, services, platforms, and give us a like and subscribe. We're in the coming year, we're going to have a YouTube for this as well. It will switch over to video podcasting in the new year. So that'll be cool. We're also going to separate from our home haunts Instagram. We're going to have Voodoo Podcast and Voodoo on Vassar, two separate Instagrams.
Cool.
So that'll be cool. But in the meantime, I mean, we do have a great listenership here, and it is expanding. What can listeners do to help fight for you to get that historian position back? Is there anything, any kind of? There's not really like a GoFundMe or anything, is there?
No,
that
and I wouldn't want people to do that anyway. I guess basically. I guess maybe we should talk to Zach, since he's got some things that are going on. I mean, I basically call the city, call the Joliet Area Historical Museum, tell them you want the history tours back with Christine and Zach, and Zach's my supervisor, and tell them you want the guard tours back with Ron Trujillo and Mike Johnson. Tell them you want the history. You want the history back. The thing is they dog 13th Floor on being an entertainment venue, when all they care about over there is selling liquor and flashlight tours. Sorry, not how it is. That's just in the history right there. Yeah. That's just in the history right there. You know what? No. Let us back in there. Let us teach the history. Let us, and they can argue all they want about me being a historian, but there is a difference between a public historian and an academic historian. I'm a public historian. They do exist. We do exist. And you don't have to have a college degree to be a tour guide. I'm sorry, you don't. Whether or not I'm irrelevant. The fact is that I've developed a lot of relationships with people who have come in there. I know their stories. I have them written down. I want to tell these stories. I can leave the people's names out of them. So many cool stories, Mike, that you and I talked about. I mean, the coolest story I have is Richard. It has to do with Richard Speck.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Rich and Mike walked Richard Speck around. I mean, why do people not want to hear what Richard Speck was really like? Talk to Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, how? And I'm sorry, Mike is 67 years old. That's right. Young trophy wife in the parlance. Mike is 67 years old. I don't know. Life is not a promised thing. Sarah Phillip with Into the Obscure created Obscurity of Maximum Security so we could get Mike's stories on, so we could have this history, so we could share it. That's how important history is. Sloughing somebody off who has history, or any historian off, whether you think they're a historian or not, if they are passionate about a subject and they have done the research other than what someone said, then they're a historian. You do not have, there's academic historian. I'm not interested in academia. No, that's boring shit. I like to read. The town has so much of it, and you cannot discount this real history that we have walking around. Embrace it. Don't let it go. for a historical museum, they sure don't really care about the history, because he's sitting there on the couch in there watching Unbelievable with Dan Aykroyd, which is fabulous. Have you seen it?
I have not, but I know Dan Aykroyd.
No, it's a history show called Unbelievable that's hosted by Dan Aykroyd. And it's
okay.
experiments. It's about it's a great show. You got to see it. It's fantastic, and Dan Aykroyd's hilarious. And he, like the guy that got that railroad stake shoved through his eye,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he talks about, they do a feature on him. Really cool little experiments, like the baby cages in New York City. Oh yeah, it's great stuff. But anyway, this is his second season, I think. But we found it by accident. I'm like, oh my God. So that's what he's doing right now. He's watching Aykroyd. Unbelievable. It's a great show. Watch it. And there's a
but get him back in the prison,
Yeah.
That's where he belongs, and it's funny to have to say that to somebody, but I mean it in the best way possible. But yeah, I mean, we'll be talking with Zach and Blood Moon Paranormal, and we haven't had him on the podcast yet. That's maybe in the future, in the works. I have ideas in my head, but I just haven't reached out. But we'll also get your husband Mike when he's feeling better, and of course you back on, because there's so much more to dive into here.
There's a lot, and we really want to just be back out and teaching the people. That, I know it sounds strange, but I'm not a thief. I'm an educator. I'm passionate about this place. And like I said, my biggest thing for still fighting, the reason I'm still fighting, is because of that man out there who gave so many years, and people don't realize, and I didn't either until I actually talked to him and I read the letters from the inmates and the moms of the when he was in the youth center, the kids he helped. Man, he deserves every penny of his pension. And that's all I'm saying on that, and it's not much.
Well, let's get him back there and do what we can if it's possible and foreseeable at this point.
Yeah. Well, people, if there's enough squeaky wheels, seriously, I mean, if people start voting, and and the thing is, and now the city of Joliet, they're going to be voting on their budget, and they have $400,000 slated to go to the Old Joliet Prison. But I thought they had nothing to do with the Old Joliet Prison. So that money,
interesting.
So that money will be fueled, will go through the Joliet Area Historical Museum for the prison. Okay, I'm a taxpayer here in Joliet. That's my money. And
we want to know where it's going.
My tax dollars work at places I can't even go.
Yeah, right.
But it's sad. So yeah, I think we need to get people rise up and say, hey, we want the real history. If they get enough people showing up on our behalf, then they might start listening. I really thought that I had a lot more faith in the city council than I probably should have. I'm very disappointed with them. And I'm disappointed in the mayor, because I'm going to tell you this, Mike, if this would have been their wife or their mother or their sister, do you think this would have happened?
No, absolutely not.
All they had to do, Mike, was say, your services are no longer necessary. Bye. But no, they concoct this whole story that we did this, that, and the other thing, and now ban us. Well, you dummy.
Yeah.
Did you think I was going to? They don't know me very well. They don't know me very well.
I love it.
Yeah.
Right. Us Schomburgers. Yeah.
Schomburgers are tough. But yeah, I mean, anybody who could help us out, give us a, shout out to the council or whatever and tell them, hey, bring back the nerds.
Absolutely. Let's push for it. That'll be the goal for, I'm sure Blood Moon is on it more so than I am. But, if anything helps for this platform, this podcast, to go out and push for that too. And I'm sure 13th Floor because that they call that place their part of it their home as well. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
awesome.
exactly.
Well,
Do you have
Christine,
a lot of listeners? I don't know much about Voodoo, but do you guys have quite the? I just started looking into your stuff. I can find you on Spotify, right?
yeah, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Oh,
I believe we're also on any other like Google Casts and
ah,
anywhere else you could get your podcasts. Like I said, in the new year, we'll also have a video version on YouTube. And then, of course, you can follow us right now, Voodoo on Vassar on Instagram. Rivets has his own Instagram page now, too. I'm very proud of that one. That's fun.
well,
Rivets.vov, I think. Something Rivets was taken. So whoever has that domain, I'm coming after you. But no, yeah, it's good. And then we'll be posting all on there. And hopefully, I haven't looked at our viewership count recently, but I know a couple of our episodes have gone a little over 3,000,
that's awesome.
depending on who we have on. So yeah, it depends on who we have as guests at this point, because we're still. This is what season 3. This is season 3, so we're still
Oh,
in our growing years. But it's grown more than I ever thought it would. So this
that's
is great.
awesome. Well, I did go and I listened to quite a few of your podcasts. Very interesting people. I love it. I love
Yeah.
the whole haunt, yeah, platform. I love this. I'm in my element, man. This is really, really cool. But I love all
This
the friendship and the camaraderie for sure. It's awesome.
I
Very,
definitely get a very wide range of personalities for this industry, which is one of the best things. So, and you included too. This has been great, and thank you for everything. We definitely have to get you back to dive deeper into a lot of this. Hopefully, with some good news in the future about positions at the museum and such, but also just about Old Joliet Haunted Prison as well
yeah.
too. And then, like I said, we'll be talking with Mike and Zach and everybody else involved. So this has been great.
Yep. Very cool, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. Can't wait to see you again. We'll have
Absolutely.
we'll be at Adams next week. Are you going to be at Adams?
I will be there. Rivets will be in the flesh.
Cool. We'll see you
So
there. Sure. We will see you then on Saturday for sure. Awesome.
sweet. And then I guess I could say this to the listeners more so than you, because I'll be seeing you. But for everybody else, have a happy holidays. We will see you in the new year. And yeah, just keep listening, stay safe, and I guess stay spooky, everybody.
Very cool. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for listening.